and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm going to take the $20 and put it on Taylor Dan. No.
I'll give you a quarter for it.
A whole quarter. I'll give Audrey a quarter, too.
Sounds like a movie reference.
I'm just so disappointed in that it sounds like a movie reference.
I'm disappointed that you still have the capacity of being disappointed in me. My parents gave up much
No, there's
sooner.
a lot of capacity for disappointment.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you for the next 4 hours. A lot of stuff to get into. Jam-packed show today. Tons of stuff to talk about with the NFL. We've got baseball on the docket. Some other things that we will get into. Some basketball as well that we will talk about throughout the show. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us to be a part of it. 913-912-4810 to text into the show and hang out with us. Your thoughts on the schedule, what you thought of the schedule release. We talked about a few games yesterday that we knew were already out there. Some Monday Night Football games, some Sunday night games. As we were on the air, some more games were released. We kind of had an idea of what the primetime games were going to be, and those ultimately came to fruition, the ones that we thought were going to happen, with the Chiefs having, six Thursday, Sunday, or Monday Night Football games, along with two other exclusive games, one of those being in Germany at 8:30 on Week 9, and Week 16 at home against Vegas on Christmas at noon. 8 of the 17 games the Chiefs will play will be exclusive, standalone. Chiefs are the only thing on in the country because, it's the NFL. During the NFL season, that's what happens. They will be the show in town and across the country and the globe, let's be honest. 8 of their 17 games will be that, and only one, numero uno, one game is a Sunday nooner. One at Jacksonville. And get that one out of the way very quickly.
Week 2.
Get a Thursday night game, open the season. Week 2, noon on the road, and boom, blow out all the noon Sunday games right there. You do have a Christmas noon game on Monday, so there's a home game at noon. You got one home game at noon this year. Enjoy it. It's also Christmas. It's also Christmas Day is that one. Life being on top is what we are experiencing with the schedule, that it is not of yesteryear when you would just go, Chiefs home game noon Sunday. Chiefs home game noon Sunday. Ooh, they got a Monday Night Football game right there. Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, everybody gets a Thursday night football game, so when are they playing on Thursday night? Sunday. Well, maybe these games late in the season could be flexed to Sunday night football. Now it's, when are the noon games at? Like, when are there even noon games? And just the one against Jacksonville. And I'm a fan of that. I know that there are plenty of people that may not be fans of that. Planning purposes, traveling purposes. Had a
Post-game show purposes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's only partially true. I love watching the Red Zone as much as I can.
Yeah.
The Monday night, Sunday night games, give them to me. That's all right. I'll have some energy drinks.
Fans overseas, heard a couple of people on Twitter that replied to me talking about that living overseas. They're like, well, this is a lot of early morning wake up and not have anything on, or being so many hours ahead of us that, hey, it's a 7:20 game. All right, well, now it's midnight for you, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that sort of reaction was like, yeah, not as many noon games. That kind of sucks. Noon games are like, hey, I can have an early evening and sit around and watch the Chiefs game. So yeah, it's not as convenient maybe as it used to be, because you actually have to plan your week differently. For someone like myself who lives in a house with someone that isn't a football fan, that the week of planning, it's like, okay, well, no, they play Monday night this week. Well, no, they play Sunday night this week. Well, they play Thursday night this week. Nope, this is a 3:25 game. No, this one's a noon game early on. It's a make sure we know when they play because things are scheduled around them, especially on a Sunday. Hey, what are we going to do this? Okay, for her sake, I need to know when you will not be available. I need to know when there's a 30-minute before and probably 10-minute after, but also not really present because you got your phone on in your pocket listening to Josh Briscoe with an E. He puts the E on there after Chiefs games.
Just only when they lose.
Josh,
They take an L, I take an E.
Yes, you're listening to Briscoe, and so it's kind of eating dinner or making dinner or whatever it might be. So I need to know those particular games. And the night games, no big deal because she's out anyway. Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, no big deal. She's asleep by the time the game gets over. Do whatever you want. It's just a matter of try to do bedtime as early as we can, so that especially with Miss Juliet. But
do they at least listen to the podcast of the post game show the next morning? I imagine. Okay, I figured.
Well,
not a huge football fan, loves the post game show.
Night games. Everett, the first thing he does when he wakes up in the morning is turn on the DVR, the recorded game of what he missed.
Got to.
He'll usually watch the first quarter and a half or whatever. Then he's rewinding. He's got a cigarette in his mouth while he's going through some film and rewinding. He actually puts it on film with the reel-to-reel.
Which is weird, but it's the way to do it.
Very odd that he does that.
Is he going to get halftime this year? Because, he's 1 year older. I don't know how that sliding scale is going to move.
He can make it to halftime this year.
Okay.
Night games, 7:20 start. Halftime should be at 8:50.
That seems all right.
He'll be fine. He'll be almost 8 years old by the time the season starts. So, yeah, he should be good to go for making the first half, which makes it a little bit easier with watching film the next morning. You got less film to watch the next morning.
Right. And you won't let him go to school until he finishes the game. It's like starting it. You smoke one cigarette, finish the pack. You watch the first half at night. You better watch that second half in the morning.
Yeah, we put the food on your plate. You finish the food on your plate.
That's right.
You understand there are starving kids out there that would love to have the food you're throwing away.
Do you know
eat every ounce of this?
Do you understand? There are starving young football fans in Denver who would kill to watch Chiefs film every day. Hello?
Yeah.
Appreciate what you have.
That's exactly right. 913-912-4810 is the text line. There are tons of fans of other teams that the Chiefs played in a championship game because of the Chiefs. They would kill to be able to have some cool gear like you have that are Chiefs. They don't get Chiefs gear. That's the problem.
Right. You know who else gets to buy some AFC West championship merch? Nobody, you spoiled little brat. It really is amazing that his entire consciousness, the Chiefs have just been really good. They've been great. Mm-hmm. Just in the AFC Championship game every year.
So let's start here. We'll get into some Royals, but here's how the show lines up. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock, Chiefs Digest. We'll hang out with him, get his thoughts on the schedule, and, of course, some other moves by the Chiefs and reactions and things like that. So we'll talk with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Conversation coming up at 11 o'clock. Connor Rogers will join us at noon. He co-hosts the NFL Stock Exchange for Pro Football Focus with Trevor Sikkema, who we're a big fan of. He's a friend of the show, Trevor Sikkema. So we're going to talk with Connor Rogers, who also covers the NFL Draft for NBC, and he's the Jets pre- and post-game host.
There we go.
So we can talk to him about, the Jets this season, but also, whoo boy, the first 4 games of the season for the Jets. Hey, New York. Good news, bad news for you. Good news, people think you might have a really good season. And you got Aaron Rodgers, and you got some a really good defense. You got some questions when it comes to the offensive line, but hey, you know what? It's going to be just fine. Don't worry. It's going to be a great season. But it is going to be rough the first, 4 to 6 weeks of the season for you, as you're going to open up with the Bills at home on Monday night. Then you're going to head to Dallas the next week. You got New England at home. Then you got the Chiefs at home on Sunday Night Football. Then you head to Denver. And then you got Philadelphia at home. Oh, but don't worry. After that, you got the bye week on week 7, so that you can end the season with 11 straight weeks of football. All good, New York. All good. Enjoy it. It's like the NFL is like, if you were a Jets fan, it's like the NFL is like, hey, this is going to be a fun season. Not so fast.
Prove it.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be a good team? We'll see about that.
Oh, hey, Jets, I'm sorry. You are still the Jets. I do apologize.
And they end the season with 3 of their last 4 games on the road.
Whew.
At Miami, home to Washington, at Cleveland, at New England to end the season. So, other than that, we'll see what the Jets end up being. But, I mean, they could easily start out 0-4.
There is within a realm of possibility that they're winless at the bye week. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're better than at least 2 teams on this.
But it's
stretch.
also within the realm of possibility that, 4 of those games at home in their first 6, they could be 5-1. Like, they have the personnel in the roster.
I love schedule talk, man.
They've got a really good roster.
They do.
And they have a quarterback now that can navigate some of those things.
They might have been a team that was actually a quarterback away, even though we've said that about the entire
Right.
AFC West for a decade.
Absolutely. And if they struggle in the first 6 weeks, it'll be Jets fans that have a darkness retreat.
Whew, that is true.
But they could be coming out into the light if those first 6 weeks, it's like we talked about last year with the Chiefs, right?
Yes.
Oh, the Chiefs, they have some bangers right out of the gate, man. They are playing the greatest hits to start the set. And after that, just have some fun. Let's try some other. Here's a new song that you guys haven't heard before. Oh, damn it. I don't want to hear the new stuff. I came here to hear the old stuff that I can sing along with and rock to. This is awful. Last year, that was the case. What did the Chiefs do at the beginning of the season? They did perfectly fine. Now it's, what do the Jets do the first 6 weeks before they finally get a break and get a day off? So we'll talk with Connor Rogers about a lot of things Chiefs and certainly the draft because he covers the draft and NFL Draft Stock Exchange and the podcast with Trevor Sikkema. But I'm just going to pick his brain on Jets pre and post because that's an interesting schedule.
What the NFL has made sure will happen is that the Jets will lead first take for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Oh, yeah, that's what they've done.
At bare minimum. Jets-Bills week 1, Jets-Cowboys week 2. Those are your A blocks. Programming's done for the week of September 11th and 17th. Congratulations, ESPN. It's over.
We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up at about 12:30 or so. Cuts before the show is over. Again, 913-912-4810. Reaction, Josh, I know you were on. I was listening last night. You were on with Sterling Holmes, and you guys were breaking down the schedule and talking about that and everything. Reaction to seeing the entire schedule in front of you, not just piecing it together. You've got it all right there, the exclusive games, the noon game, the 325 games, and then I went through and put the DraftKings lines to every single game. So I'm glad that you haven't looked at that, by the way.
I have not. No,
Awesome.
I know something about the schedule as a whole. I do not know the line by line.
Okay, cool. So there'll be a couple of questions that I may quiz you on here in a little bit, but in the second segment. But your reaction, first initial reaction to now 17 games. You knew who they were playing. Now we have the order.
I mean, the obvious thing is that it looks like a pretty brutal schedule, which we knew it was going to be before we knew the order, right? I don't think that the order does much in terms of changing my expectations. Having that bye week after the Germany game makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit of a bummer that the Chiefs and Eagles are both coming off a bye before that Monday night game. But, man, that game is going – you hope, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all of that you get fully healthy teams coming off a bye and you get the Monday night premier Super Bowl matchup, or the rematch that you – and maybe a preview again, who knows, that you hope that ends up being – so that's thrilling. I'm saying in the short term that the game I'm most excited for is that Jets game for all the reasons we just talked about. Because, look, I mean, Bills and Bengals in December, that's going to set the AFC playoff seeding. I mean, they're going to be huge, huge stakes in the month of December because even if the Chiefs are undefeated at the end of November, there's going to be a chance for these teams to strike. But that's all so far down the road. I am really excited and hopeful that we're going to see Mahomes and Rodgers. We're going to see that rest of that roster with the Jets. Rookies of the year on both sides of the football. McCole Hardman revenge game is not Tyreek Hill revenge game.
Right.
But it's a little extra layer to see if he says anything kind of interesting leading up to that game that week.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of intrigued to see how the Jets do form by that point. So this is I guess unsurprising, but I'm pretty excited that we have specific football to look forward to and all of the primetime stuff. The what was it, 8 standalone games and the 6 primetime?
Yep, 8 exclusive games, 6 of those being primetime, noon on Christmas, 8:30 a.m. when they're in Germany. And then I went through and looked at the 325 games.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be 10 or 12
There
game of the
are,
weeks?
3, 4. There are 7 325 games
Mm-hmm.
that they have played. So we know they have 8 exclusive games. They play 7 games at 325. And going through, there are 4 of them that I've picked out that I'm pretty confident will be the national 325 game.
Okay, I feel great about 3 of them at least.
Week 5 at Minnesota.
Okay.
The reason I picked that is on CBS, the other CBS game is Jets at Broncos.
Yep.
Which could be intriguing, but this is Chiefs and Vikings.
Combined
where-
age of quarterbacks in that game is
right.
80.
But if the Vikings are sitting at 4-0 or something, I haven't looked
Yep.
at their schedule, but the Chiefs are always going to be, a draw. Vikings are the best team in the North, although it could be the
Yeah.
Lions. So that's an interesting one. You got Justin Jefferson. You got some star power with Minnesota. And then you throw in Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
With Minnesota. So that's one. That's probably a little. It's the most iffy of the 4.
Yeah.
The other 3 against the Chargers. The CBS 325 game. The other CBS 325 game at that point is Green Bay at Denver. I would guess that Chiefs and Chargers would be the national game of the week at 325. That's a pretty big draw. And then the other 2 being Buffalo and Cincinnati.
Gotta be.
Because Buffalo, when the Chiefs play the Bills, the other CBS game is Denver and the Chargers, which, depending on this, but that's Chiefs and Bills at that point.
And it's December. We're going to know some
Yep.
things about those teams.
And then oddly enough, week 17, when the Chiefs are playing the Bengals, the other CBS game is Chargers and Denver.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
That's
they play
funny.
2 of 3, just like the Chiefs play Denver
Yeah.
2 out of 3 weeks. So I
Why
think
does that keep happening, by the way?
you've got all of these ways you can schedule. There's
Wasn't it 2 of 3 last year, but just the very end of the season? Wasn't it like first and third game of December or something?
against Denver.
I guess, yeah. I felt like they played a couple of games in a very
Probably.
short turnaround last year,
Yeah,
too.
they play them October 12th and October 29th.
December
this year.
11th and January 1st. So it was 4
Yeah.
weeks apart. This
4
year
weeks
it's
apart.
3.
This week's 3. They mix in a game against the Chargers at home.
What a weird stretch.
Thursday night against Denver. Sunday afternoon against the Chargers, and then at Denver for Sunday afternoon. And then they head to Germany for Miami. Then they get the week off. Oddly enough, we talk about these teams that get the week off after they go and play these games overseas. The Jags have back-to-back weeks in London. They don't have a week off after that. They come back home and then play another game.
Interesting.
So they're in London, and maybe that's because they're in London for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That they're saying, well, maybe you don't need the bye because you're there for 2 weeks. It's not
That'll
just the
be
travel there,
interesting.
travel back. You're traveling there. You're there for a couple of weeks. Then you're traveling back. But, we'll take care of you at that point with a home game. But so just some scheduling sort of quirks in there.
Yeah.
But I've looked through, I think 12 of the 17 games for the Chiefs will be either exclusive or the national game of the week that'll be shown across the country, except for the Denver market, the Green Bay and Denver market, the Denver market and the Chargers, and then the Denver market and the Chargers. But LA's a big one. But
More
obviously the
or
rest of the country.
less 12 national games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just put that in a bottle and throw it into a time machine that'll go back 10 years.
Yep.
Get pre-Andy Reid. 15 years ago, if you told me, hey, there's going to be a world where the Chiefs are going to be the biggest show in town in the NFL 12 times, or at least be pretty much the featured team
And by the
12
way,
times.
and we don't know what the Chiefs and Chargers Week 18 is going to be. That could be a standalone exclusive game on like a
Absolutely.
Saturday.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, but they could have it on that Saturday. They could have
Yep.
it be one of those, like basically a pre-playoff game.
They could,
Certainly if the division's in
if the
question.
division's in question, it might be one of those Sunday night games we saw Raiders and Chargers a
Yeah.
couple of
If
years
they-
ago.
Maybe they
Sunday
need a
night.
tie for some reason.
Yes.
That'd be a blast.
So who knows what that game is? There's another iffy game like 325 that I'm like, that could be or could not be. Week 3 against the Bears. I don't think it'll be that. They're on Fox. The 325. There's only 2 games at 325 that week, and they're both on Fox. Chiefs at home against the Bears. The other one is Dallas at Arizona. I mean, the Cardinals without
Yeah.
Kyler Murray that early in the season, but it's the Cowboys on Fox. I'm guessing they'll be the national game, and then the Chiefs will be regional against the Bears, and the Chiefs are 10-point favorites against the Bears installed already. So, that's probably not one that will be viewed as a, Fox, let's put the main team here with Chiefs and Bears. That'll probably be the Cowboys. It's Cowboys, it's Fox, it's early on in the season, it's week 3.
I only have one game on the schedule that I'm just a little bit, I mean, maybe two that I'm a little bit perplexed by that now could end up getting flexed around. But Week 13, Sunday Night Football, I'm a little perplexed by these. Week 13, Packers on Sunday night.
Yeah.
If Jordan Love's just kind of flops, that game could lose a lot of its juice. But Chiefs-Packers is a great matchup, great markets. And then also 2 weeks later, after the Bills game is at 3:25, Chiefs-Patriots, Week 15, Monday Night Football. There's a world where they're like I don't know when their bye week is, but they could be 5-9 or something at that point. I don't think networks are going to want to flex Mahomes out, though. So I think that that's probably safe. But those are both weird ones. Like I'm sure that CBS wants to keep the Chiefs Bills, and eventually you're going to lose that tug of war. But what a weird one. Well, Chiefs Patriots Monday night week, December 18th.
The December 3rd one, when you talk about going to Green Bay for Sunday Night Football, again, if Jordan Love is not any good and Green Bay is just a generic team, they flexed the Chiefs out of Sunday Night Football last year because the Broncos and Russell Wilson were so bad.
Because Russell Wilson was so putrid that it stunk up the beautiful smells of the Chiefs.
Who did they flex into that game? I can't remember. It was a good one.
I don't remember.
It was one that was
right.
like, all right, it might have been like Bengals and somebody, like Bengals and Browns or something, where it's like, okay, no, this is an actually intriguing game.
Dolphins-Chargers.
Dolphins-Chargers. Okay, Miami was good. Chargers, were good.
Playoff hunt.
That made sense as opposed to Chiefs and the crappy Broncos. They were so bad that Sunday Night Football was like, yeah, we'll lose Mahomes.
It's unbelievable.
For a better game. If that was Rodgers, then that would be Sunday Night Football. It would stay there if Rodgers was still in Green Bay. But Jordan Love, I don't know. That one absolutely could be flexed out. So that might be one of those to where it's like, oh, they just lost an exclusive game. And
maybe ESPN just wants the Patriots once because there are other primetime games that the Patriots currently have 2 Sunday nights, a Thursday night. That's the only Monday night with the Chiefs. But hey, throw a team that needs a Monday night game up against the Chiefs, put them there, and people will watch.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not wrong. I mean, yeah, that would be a fair line of thinking.
New England and the Chiefs. It's New England, that traditional power for a long time that is now not that, but still maybe living off name brand, and the Chiefs that are the new kids in town that are the name brand across the country and the face of the NFL in Patrick Mahomes at that time on December 18th.
What a world.
Yeah. So, look, we knew the schedule was going to be tough. It's just a matter of how they play them. They do have 2 stretches where 3 of 4 are on the road. They have 2 different stretches of that. They then also have 2 different stretches of 3 or 4 at home. So, I mean, it's like, it's not one of those home, road, home, road, home, road, home, road. They go to Jacksonville, home for Chicago, go to New York, go to Minnesota. Then they are home for Denver, home for LA, at Denver, Germany, Miami. So I guess that doesn't really count, but then they get the bye. And then they get Philadelphia at home. Then at Vegas, at Green Bay, home to Buffalo, at New England. But then home to Buffalo, at New England, followed by Vegas and Cincinnati. So it's kind of where you want to put the cutoff. 3 or 4 on the road or 3 or 4 at home. Well, it's really just 3 at home and 3 on the road in that 6-game stretch. So, and then wrapping up against the Chargers. Hopefully that game means nothing, because if that game means a lot, that's scary. That's a scary one to end the season with. I'll be frank with you. Going to the Chargers is never a comfortable game. And if that's one to where, you know what, you got to win it. You got to win it to get the number 1 seed. And the Bengals are playing the Browns at home, and the Bills are heading to the Dolphins. That's a little bit of a tougher one, but, we'll see what ends up happening with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I'm going to quiz Josh to see, we asked yesterday if the Chiefs are going to be dogs in any of these games. We'll talk about that just a little bit. And then look at the bye week, pre-bye, post-bye. You never want the early bye week. I think it's perfect for the Chiefs having that bye week on week 10. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so more than 20 years in the industry, Bickmer Electric, your locally owned and operated one-stop electrical contractor. Small jobs to big jobs, Bickmer team knows how to take care of your commercial and residential electrical needs. They took care of the needs at our house with the different projects we wanted to get done around the house. One of the things that we really wanted to do was in our kids' bedroom, they have one light switch that controls the light and the fan. Well, that's a little difficult for a kid that, wants the fan on in the middle of the night, but the light can't be on. So he wakes up in the morning and wants to turn the light on, but he can't reach the string, the pulley thingy, which is exactly what they called it. They said, hey, this pulley thingy, we can help you out here. So how about this? We put 2 different switches in those rooms. Boom, that's easy enough. I couldn't do it myself. They were able to do that, and they gave us different choices. Hey, we've got this one that can be a remote control. Hey, we got this one that can be, a little bit more expensive. Hey, we have this one that comes with gold-plated, wires that you can't see. But it's cool, though. Maybe not. Not sure. That may be made up. Maybe not. Maybe you can ask for gold-plated wires. I don't know. Bickmer could probably take care of it. Call them now, 913-313-6751. They will give you that virtual walkthrough. You can do all of those things there with not having to be, really difficult in terms of scheduling and make sure our schedules match up. I'll be there. Oh, no, traffic. No, I got home. Boom. Give them a call. Let's do the virtual walkthrough. That's awesome. BickmerElectric.com. BICKIMER Electric.com. Give them a call. 913-313-6751. Bickmer Electric.
It's Wrangler season out there. Warmer days, cooler nights. Open roads, endless horizons. And you need to be ready in jeans,
Yeah, I like that one too. I think, if I throw the Chiefs and the Ravens in there with a little tease the Chiefs down to a half-point favorite at home and the Ravens to only, -3 at home against the Texans in week 1. And heck, even throw in the Seahawks taking on the crappy Rams that are trying to tank this year. Seahawks at home are less than a touchdown favorite. I can get that down to a pick 'em, essentially. Kind of like that. You're right. Are we back, Drake? Okay, very good.
I'm 6 teams deep into a 6-team teaser for week 1 of the NFL season that doesn't kick off for almost
Don't
exactly
scare me
4
like
months.
I did startle Drake. She was, what? Are we? Yeah, we are.
My wife texted me the other day and said it's over. I was like, what? Because I had an early Pilates class. I was like, oh, God.
Boy, do I got a story off the air for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Along those lines.
Okay.
Nothing like the relationship or anything like that, but just along those lines, I was just like, you can't start a conversation like that, okay? Let's hear Louis Riddick in a conversation about the Lions. Chiefs and Lions opening the season.
I am dying to hear this audio.
He he talks about, and you know what he says? The Lions actually deserve the national attention in week 1.
Look at how their season ended last year, finishing 8-2. Look at how Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, had the defense balling at the end of last year, and how they had like some young superstars emerge. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a household name. He already was. He's going to be a big-time household name this year. Offensively, Jared Goff made people think that maybe Sean McVay made a mistake, running him out of L.A. Jahmyr Gibbs, their first rounder from Alabama, is an absolute, just electrifying Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara type of hybrid. These guys are for real, man.
They finished the season, and they were, minimum they were top half of the NFC last year. But we've also talked about the NFC being the much more inferior conference to the AFC. But he's right. They won 8 of 10 at the end of the year. They added in Jahmyr Gibbs, which they think is, going to be a difference maker. He certainly better be because, you took him in the first round in the top 15 of the draft. They added in a kneecap-eating linebacker, so that certainly helps as well. So, yeah, it's a salty team. It's not a layup. When we say, you know what, I'm glad that the Chiefs got the easier game on Thursday night to start the season. Not the Eagles or the Bengals or the Bills or something like that we had talked about, or maybe even the Dolphins before we knew what the Germany matchup was as to who week 1 was going to be. The Lions, it's not going to be an easy game, certainly, but it's a game that they should win. I went back in the last 15 years to see what the record was of teams that started off the season after winning the Super Bowl. And the last 15 years, the Super Bowl winners in week 1, what would you guess their record is? Last 15 years. Super Bowl winners in week 1.
I'm going to
say... This is a Thursday night game, the standalone Thursday night game.
I know I have a pretty strong memory of one of them losing. So that one's exciting.
So there's at least one.
I'm going to say...
So at best, they're 14-1.
I'm gonna say 12-3.
12-3. Very close.
Oh, I thought I was on a heater.
Yep. 11-4.
I almost went 11-4.
11-4. Now we remember the most recent one being the Buffalo Bills just dominating the Rams 31-10 last year.
Oh yeah, good point. Could have dinged that one too.
So it's like, and we know the Patriots.
Was there one between those two?
No.
Okay.
So the Chiefs and Patriots, when they went to New England and they spoiled their celebration when they just, beat the tar out of the Patriots, and the Kareem Hunt game
ripped Mark Wahlberg's heart out, I think. Was he doing the announcements?
Yes. And then the other two, the Giants, they lost to the Dallas Cowboys at home 24-17. And then in an odd quirk, and I'd have to go back and see why this is, the very next year, Baltimore won the Super Bowl. That next year when they started off the season, they went to Denver. They were on the road on Thursday night.
Interesting.
Baltimore was the Super Bowl champions, but they started the season on the road in Denver, in which they lost by 22 points. And that was a Denver team that was, pretty good with Peyton Manning and those teams, and a pretty good defense. So Baltimore, they sent them on the road. But since that Baltimore loss, the defending Super Bowl champions are 7-2 in the last 9. not as concerning as you say, oh, there's so many distractions.
Concerted Pro Painters, if you're in need of a paint job this spring, inside or outside of your home or business, do like I've done for years.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, hanging out with Matt Derrick now, Chiefs Digest, as we talk some Kansas City Chiefs, talked a lot about the schedule in the first hour, schedule release. The NFL owns the offseason. It's what they do each and every year, and they can slowly let the drip of the faucet throughout the week for the games and then throughout the day leading up to ultimately the schedule release, although I will say it might be counterproductive for them because I wasn't watching NFL Network. I was looking at the videos from the different teams with their schedule release videos. Matt Derrick is our guest, Chiefs Digest. Matt, were you watching the show? Were you breaking down the schedule that we pretty much already had before the show even started? Or were you just on Twitter going through all of the different teams' schedule release videos to see which ones were good, which ones were bad, which ones were sort of the goosebumps of the, that's, you know what, maybe don't try that hard next year?
Well, at 7 o'clock last night, I was on with Sterling Holmes, talking about the schedule release on 810. So that's the only way that people should be experiencing the schedule release.
Or were you doing a radio interview? That was my next question. You cut me off, Matt. You cut me off. Were you doing a radio interview?
Thanks for watching NFL Network and not listening to us, Jason.
Well, what's funny is I was listening to that until about 6:45, and then I was done with the yard work, and I went inside to eat, and I was going to start watching the NBA games, and so sorry, Sterling and Matt, I turned it off, went inside, ate, hung out with the family without Matt Derrick and Sterling Holmes in the background, and then watched some NBA, and then, of course, perused the different Twitter. So I apologize, Matt. I'm glad I didn't hear it, because now I get to ask you the same exact questions.
Well, exactly. And to your original point, what did I watch? I only watched the Chargers video. That's the only thing I pay attention to, because everything else is a pale imitation. If anything goes viral enough to get my attention, I know I will see it. So there was a couple of others, but I'm trying to remember what else stood out.
The Titans one stood out with the asking the different, the man on the street conversation. They just showed him the logo of the team and said, which team is this? And they all guessed. And one of them was the 49er Stars.
Yeah. There was a real confidence about the Cowboys, and I don't even really want to spoil it. If you haven't seen it, that one is definitely worth your time.
The Cowboys showed up twice, and they don't play the Cowboys. Or at least they were both the Colts.
That's
so
right.
Is that the 49er, 69er Stars? 49er, 69er Stars. One of my favorite one was Lightning McQueen.
Lightning McQueen
was the Chargers. It was great. Have you seen the Titans one yet?
I have not. I guess
go
I'll
check it out.
Now that you told me, can go check it out.
I think they finished ahead of the Chargers by a nose.
Ooh.
Maybe
That's big hype.
I know.
I don't know.
I slightly disagree.
Here's the thing. Maybe because the anime and last year I sort of expected it from the Chargers, and I don't think anybody came close last year to the Chargers. And the one with the Titans was just really funny.
Yeah.
It was really good, and the way that they produced it with then throwing on the screen with the logo and then the actual names. The Seattle Seahawks, and one of the ladies says, Eagles. Where? Pittsburgh. So it just puts Pittsburgh Eagles over the Seahawks logo.
It's really good. The Chargers one is packed, though,
It
man.
is. You're right. And there are teams that have played along, because the Atlanta Falcons played along with this. Because one of the people that were on the street was a lady, and what did she say? Red Stallions. She looked at the Falcons logo and she said, Red Stallions, arr. And so they put Red Stallions, parentheses, rawr. It was really good. And so today the Atlanta Falcons Twitter handle is Red Stallions. It's pretty good. But yes, the Chargers are really good. Every year they have, and those little Easter eggs that are put in there, Matt. And of course, both of the Chiefs games were about Chiefsaholic. So well done. Well done, LA.
That was pretty solid. I mean, you can't really beat that, though. The Raiders ones were really good. And I'm still talking about just the Chargers video. Dak Prescott getting run over by the social content bus.
That was good. Yep.
Yeah, they're the best. And I fear that we are close to jumping the shark. If this wasn't the year, then next year might be the year where we're looking back and saying, okay, can we just go back to where one day you don't know the schedule, and the next second, all of a sudden, hey, it's out.
Yeah, a couple of them that are more of a time commitment to watch, but I would say they're worth your time. Jacksonville, theirs was about 8 minutes, but it was with script writers. It was behind the scenes of the NFL, and it's like the people that would write a TV show. It's behind the scenes of all the things they're coming up with. These guys are actors, and explaining it to Trevor Lawrence, who's just standing there with his long hair, stone-faced. He's like, no. You are Trevor Lawrence, but you're playing an NFL player named Trevor Lawrence as Trevor Lawrence. and he just stares at him like he's totally confused. And so it's actually pretty good. And they get a lot of the team involved. Doug Peterson involved with part of it, and they ask him questions. What did you think when you saw the script? Zay Jones is sitting like crisscross applesauce and sort of like trying to be in like Zen, and he's like, I'm just trying to figure out how do I find my motivation for week 14. And they're like, look, man, I got you taken care of. Remember? Overtime touchdown. Got you. You're right. 2-point conversion. We got you taken care of, Zay. He's like, you know what? You always have my back with the with the scripts. I appreciate that. It's really well done.
I got a little bit into the Jags, and then eventually I went, this one's like 8 minutes. I'm
exactly.
Move on. So I have to go back and revisit it.
It sounds like at 8.5 minutes they probably beat the sketch into the ground.
Yeah. I will say though, I enjoyed it though. It never like there were new bits to it. It wasn't just the same thing over and over again. So I enjoyed that one. And then Pittsburgh had a how-to video to release a schedule.
I don't think I saw that one.
And if you've seen Dodgeball, when it's the Patches O'Houlihan, how to play dodgeball, the black and white, the dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. They sort of recreate that on the how to make a schedule release video. That was, it was original. It was original. So those are the ones that sort of stood out to me. Chargers, Titans, the Jags with the script writers, and you guys call them weeks. We call them episodes. So episode 4.
I did see that.
Episode 4, we got into this. So, there was some original content that was there. And the Chargers, I think, spend like 4 months coming up with all of the different Easter eggs.
But some of it's recent. That's something I realized going through. Some of the Easter eggs were from like the draft.
Yeah.
Quick turnarounds.
That is true. So yeah, you're right. Some of them are worth it. Some of them are, just turn it off. No need to go and do that. The Baltimore Ravens, probably, Matt, what maybe would be more up your alley, all they did was show highlights throughout the like 3-minute video with Lamar Jackson talking about this season, and then it shows like a game, and then the schedule. Here's who they play week 2. Then some more highlights, and Lamar Jackson talk. It was all about showcasing Lamar. Is what that was.
And you get to wonder whether or not Lamar will be healthy for that
game. Exactly. And it's only like 2.5-3 minutes long.
The Cardinals did it in even less time, and it's just Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins playing catch, and then eventually Kyler Murray throws the ball at the camera, and the schedule comes up. I think the entire purpose of that is to show you the schedule and to remind you that Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are currently members of the Arizona Cardinals.
That's right. Chiefs were okay.
Here's what I would do. Here's my idea for an NFL team. If you take this idea, it's free. I don't need a payment or anything whatsoever. Here's what you do next year. You get a Parks and Rec cast reunion, and the entire schedule release is just Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman walking into the office, posting the schedule on the bulletin board, and walking back into his office and closing the door.
Brilliant. I'm done.
That's all I need.
There's 2 things I hate in this world: my time being wasted, and schedule release videos, which are just the same thing. Post the
plain piece of paper.
Yeah, that's it. And it's
Times New Roman.
That's right. And that's it. And then the scene. The Broncos tried to recreate The Office. That I think that was one of those to where it was trying a little too hard. With some of the things that were there. So, all right, Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. Now let's actually talk about what you thought of the schedule. We had a pretty good idea as the week went on about the different primetime games. Now we know that the Chiefs have 8 exclusive games this year. Detroit, the Jets, Broncos, Dolphins, Eagles, Packers, Patriots, Raiders are exclusive games throughout the season. What did you think of the schedule being released? Any takeaways that stand out to you?
Well, you can draw a couple of conclusions, and one is also not only that, but the Chiefs have a ton of these 3:25 kickoffs, which
7 of
in
them.
which they either there's only 1, 2, or 3 games going at once, and those are usually pretty wide audiences. Some of those games are going to be national games too, and frankly, sometimes that late afternoon window outdraws the primetime games. So, yeah, the Chiefs are in some – so basically if you look at, the time slots and everything, the dumpiest game on the Chiefs' schedule, according to the NFL, Jacksonville in Week 2.
Week 2.
Because they buried that thing at noon with everybody else. That is the only time all season that the Chiefs are going to be playing a game where there's like 5 or 6 other games going on.
Yeah, the 3:25 starts out of the 7 325 starts, only one of those 7 are there 3 games that start at 325.
Yeah.
The other weeks, there's like a game or two that starts at 305, but those are such the regional ones. Those aren't the national ones. That's regional. And so, week 3 against the Bears, 2 games at 325. Week 5 against the Vikings, 2 games. Chargers at home, 2 games at 325. Raiders at home, 2 games at 325. Buffalo, he didn't want to hear about this.
It sounds like we lost Matt. Okay.
Matt's like, you know what? I don't want to hear
stop
about
reading,
it.
man.
I don't want to talk about
He went
this
to go watch
at
the
all.
Titans video.
Yes, Matt. You know what? Don't call back until you've watched the Titans video. And you see what we're talking about with the 49er, 69er stars. I just love that she said 69er and the other girl next to her said, no. She's like, what? I've heard of 69ers. But she did get 49er right. It wasn't for the logo.
Which is shocking, yeah, because did it...
I don't even
Did
know
not
what the
say
logo.
Steelers? It was the Steelers.
Yeah, it was Steelers. So it was probably
Did it-
49er, 69er. No,
It says
stars.
It says Steelers.
Because the stars are on the side of the Steelers helmet.
Unbelievable.
Matt Derrick is back with us, Matt. So anyway, yes, 325 games, pretty decent chance of a lot of those to be the national game, along with 8 of the standalone exclusive games. So, you're looking at 15 of the 17 games are either exclusive or they're going up against one other game at 325.
Yeah, that's what I said last night. I mean, for better or worse, love them or hate them, the Chiefs are America's team right now. They are the game that apparently America wants to watch because the NFL is giving this to the audience. I mean, every single week they're going to be playing a premier game, even if it's not a premier team. And like I said, I mean, week 2 is clearly what the NFL thinks is the worst game on the Chiefs' schedule. And I don't necessarily agree, but to me, the most interesting thing about the schedule release is simply the sequence of the games and where they fall. Because we already knew the opponents. We already knew all that. But where they fall definitely impacts the way that you think of them. I mean, knowing that the Chiefs are going to have a 15-day stretch before they take on the Eagles, that's a huge advantage. I mean, I don't think there's any way you can slice it that that's not an advantage for the Chiefs. With Andy Reid off a bye week and that kind of game, I mean, even with their previous game being the one in Germany, I'll still take the 15 days if I'm the Chiefs in that contest against the Eagles.
Let me look at this real quick. The Eagles are on the bye the same thing. So they both are on the bye week 10. But you are talking about Andy Reid coming off a bye.
You can give anybody else in the league 6 months. But
6 months.
Give Andy Reid 2 weeks, that's all he needs.
6 months. Come on, Harold. It's a hockey season. Come on, 6 months. You'll be out. It's fine. I will not dishonor myself, my unit, or my corps so I could be home in 6 months, sir. That's your fault for saying 6 months, Matt. That's
a very, very good drop. I'm very impressed.
A few good men.
It sounded like a few good men, but I couldn't place it.
That's right.
I'm disappointed in myself for once.
And let me tell
it was Dawson or Downey, but it was one of them.
it was Harold. It was Harold Dawson.
There you go.
Not Loudon Downey. Look, Philadelphia's going to need a few more good men to beat the Chiefs.
Matt, just hang up again, man.
No, because if I hang up again, you're going to start talking about the Titans video, and I can't handle that.
Sorry about that. The one thing that does stand out, and I went through a couple of years ago and looked at every single team, who they played the week before, what day they played, to see like who had extra days of rest, and broke that down and everything, and it mattered nothing. It mattered nothing. When the Chiefs got extra rest, it was like a game that they ended up losing. When another team had extra rest, the Chiefs won, or there's another game where a team had extra rest and the Chiefs lost. And it was like it didn't matter at all. The one thing I will say though is that 325 game against Buffalo, the Chiefs will play Philadelphia at home. They'll go to Vegas. They'll go to Green Bay for Sunday night. Buffalo is coming off a bye. Buffalo's bye week is week 13, and the Chiefs return home to play Buffalo after going to Vegas and going to Green Bay. That is something that I do think, could be a difference. Now, when we talk about, well, this team played and had 2 extra days. Coming off a bye for Buffalo and resting up after they played 12 straight games and then finally getting some rest, and the Chiefs back-to-back road games, there's a little more of an added difficulty element in there with that specific game.
Yeah, and and we talked a long time about the Chiefs and how good they are at the end of the season, and particularly in December, particularly at home. And they've got, two very tough games at home in December. Potentially, you could say three. We'll see what the Raiders are, but Raiders on Christmas Day. I think as you would like to say, you can throw the records of the books out the window on that one. Not entirely, because I still think Chiefs will be the much better team by then.
Mm-hmm.
But Buffalo and Cincinnati, those are really two tough games at home. And now, are you talking about a team that's potentially able to go 5-0 in December at home? Well, 5-0 in December and 3-0 at home. I don't know. It's going to be a tougher haul in the back end of the schedule for the Chiefs this year.
The one thing I will say about the schedule, and we can get into other topics and conversations, is a year ago, the main discussion was about the first 4, 5, 6 weeks. And it was, oh my goodness, that is stacked. It is front-loaded. It's heavy with some really good teams. The Chiefs, are they going to be like 3-3? Be like 2-4 in those first 6 games? Like, who knows? If they get out of that 4-2, boy, you just take it. There isn't really, as I look at this, like a stretch of like, boy, they've got a 4 or 5 game stretch here. Even though the schedule is tough, we know how difficult the schedule is, but there isn't a stretch of like, they're not playing Buffalo, Cincinnati, Philly in like 3 weeks in a row. They're playing Philadelphia coming off a bye. Then they're playing Vegas, which, by the way, has a bye week 13. So Vegas will be playing their 12th straight game by the time the Chiefs go to Vegas. They go to Green Bay, and who knows what they'll be then. Yes, they play Buffalo the next week, but they got Buffalo at home. Then they go to New England, which, again, New England is not the New England team we've seen of yesteryear. Then they get a Vegas team at home, which should be a win before they take on Cincinnati at home. And then who knows what Week 18 is going to be. Given the fact that this was going to be, you knew the tough opponents, I'm actually perfectly fine with how it broke down and the Chiefs getting a bye week in Week 10, and they finished the season with 3 of 4 at home before going to L.A. in Week 18 that may or may not be, may or may not matter at that particular point. So I really like the schedule as it stands right now.
The only thing that really worries me, and once again, we're talking about the teeth of the schedule being and when the Chiefs are usually at their best. So maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Their toughest games, no doubt after the bye week, and they are into December. So, that's usually when the Chiefs play their best football. The challenge is that I think you're going to have to kind of stay up a little bit through the first 8 weeks of the season because there's not, they do have 3 primetime games in there, which should keep your attention.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're not necessarily games that you're expecting the Chiefs to be. In none of these first 8 games will the Chiefs be an underdog. They will probably be significant favorites in every single one of them. I could maybe see the Vikings game being the closest of the group, and maybe there'll still be, depending on how good of a start the Jets get off to, if they beat Buffalo early and, they're 3-0 or 2-1 at that spot, maybe the Jets will be the love of the betting community. But I have a feeling that, if you're the Chiefs, looking at this schedule, I think you'd have to say going into Week 9 on the road, going to Germany against the Dolphins, if you're not 6-2, you're very disappointed in what's happened.
Yeah.
I think you should be 7-1 at the worst, unless you've really stubbed your toe somewhere. And 8-0 is going to Germany is not out of the question.
My quick glance put them at 8-1 at the bye week, and I'm typically, with the Chiefs in the schedule, I'm usually a game worse than what I think they will be. So if I'm like, all right, I think they're going to be like 8, well, I'm going to go 7-2 or 6-3 just to be realistic. Because come on, they're not going to go 14-3 with this schedule like we talked about last year. Like, no way. This is a 12-5 schedule for the Chiefs, and the over/under 10.5 is just dumb. And that's ridiculous. It should be 12.5, whatever. But even with that being the case, like Detroit had better be a win. Chicago had better be a win. Denver at home should be a win. Denver on the road, quite frankly, should be a win. The Chargers at home, it's a tough one. They always give them, a run for their money. But again, it's a home game. You'd better win that one. I think Minnesota takes a step back this year. Jacksonville is going to be salty, but I think you can certainly win that one. Yeah, I think 6-2 you're right. If they're 6-2 right there, that should be the minimum, because that's the area before the bye is where you can sort of make some hay. That's where you need to get a little bit of a cushion or a lead on the rest of the AFC, because it's going to be tough sledding the rest of the way. It's kind of like, in a basketball game where you've got the star of the other team that's on the bench for 3 or 4 minutes. Well, you need to take advantage of that. This guy's out with foul trouble. Okay, take advantage, because when he comes back in, they're going to be pretty good. And if you don't take advantage and that guy comes back in and it's tied, well, you just lost that opportunity there, and you're going to have to – it's going to be tougher on you. They are favored in every single game right now as the lines have opened, Matt. And the game that is the closest is actually the Jets. In Week 4, the Chiefs are 1-point favorites on Sunday Night Football there in New York against the Jets Week 4. That's the closest of the matchups in terms of the point spread. The second closest is Week 18 in L.A. They are a 2-point favorite with that. But they're favorites in every single game.
Yeah, and Week 18, right now you just expect Mahomes is not playing in that game. So sure, make him a 2-point favorite.
Yeah.
And at least from so far, the early betting lines that I've seen on the Jets are assuming that apparently Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing for 5,000 yards again. And I'm not sold on that, but we will see. That's one of the more unpredictable teams on the schedule, about who exactly that they are. I'm in that same ballpark with you. 9-0 before the bye is entirely possible. I don't think they'll do that. I think that 7-2 or 7-2 is probably more likely. We rule out 8-1. 7-2 is probably where I will end up falling. I could see myself going ahead and being bold and going 8-1. I'm not going to go 9-0. I think that's just too hard to do with some of these contests. But I think there's 4 games that you would say should be reasonably comfortable wins. And there's 5 games that on this group that should be tough. And, hey, if you go 3-2 in your tough games, that's pretty good.
The other wrinkle to this conversation is we will certainly look at matchups as the games get closer, obviously, and they go through preseason and they go through the lead up to it. The Chiefs and their questions on offensive line, they will go up against the Detroit team that has Aiden Hutchinson right out of the gate, and then they go up against the Jacksonville team that has a pretty salty defensive line. So the Chiefs' questions about left tackle, right tackle, who's there, who's winning the job, who's in what spot, will be tested the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, that's a good point. They will get some answers to their offensive line questions right off the bat, and we'll see how they're tested. And then and Jacksonville in September, those interesting things can happen there. That's going to be a hot, muggy game. You never know what's going to happen. You're right. Jaguars are kind of salty, even though I frankly expect them to take a step backwards this year, but we will see. They were impressive last year. I'll give them that. I just still feel like there's a flaw with that team that I can't get past, and I can't quite place my finger on it either. So I don't know. I feel like they're a 500 team, and I'm just not sure that they're ready to take the step. I think I need to see Trevor Lawrence prove to me that he's truly the quarterback that a lot of people seem to think that he is, and I just haven't quite seen it yet. And there's other games. Week 9 will all be about Tua and Tyreek. If Tua and Tyreek are healthy, that's going to be a heck of a game. If not, that's not going to be much of a contest either.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue talking with Matt Derrick, our guest here, as we head up until noon with Matt, talking about the Chiefs. We'll get into some other parts of this Chiefs team and conversations around that coming up next with more with Matt Derrick. It's The Zone, presented by Google Fiber.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com. In the 8
All right, Matt Derrick, we're hanging out with him on this Friday edition of The Zone, presented by Google Fiber. Award-winning internet without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. Now available up to 5 gigs, but that 1 gig internet, the same price since 2012. Matt Derrick is our guest. Matt, I wanted to... one other thing on the schedule that I wrote down and I forgot to bring up to you. The way that the preseason is run by Andy Reid, first game, second game, third game, all of that. Is this a year to where the Chiefs just sit everybody that matters in week 2 of the preseason? Because that is at Arizona. And you don't need somebody in preseason in a game that typically is hey, now we're going to play our starters a little bit longer before we give them a rest in week 3. Not at Arizona. No, everybody's, forfeiting that game. Sorry, not playing on that crappy field in Arizona in a preseason game. No, thank you.
Not only that, but I'd be tempted to sign up. If you don't have a backup kicker and a backup punter, I'd go ahead and sign those that week just to avoid having Harrison Butker out there. We're being kind of facetious a little bit, but
I'm only being barely facetious, honestly. The last thing I want to see, McDuffie got injured for 6 weeks in that game. We know about Butker got injured in that game, and it was because of the turf. Are you going to tell me Arizona's turf is better this year than it was? Well, it may be, but I don't want the Chiefs in preseason game number 2 being the ones to try to figure it out.
It was bad in September and February.
Yeah,
I wouldn't test it in the preseason.
Who does Arizona play in their first preseason game? Are they on the road or are they at home? Because if they're on the road, that will be the first game played there in Arizona if they, quote-unquote, did something different with their turf. Did they use the ryegrass?
They start at home against the Broncos.
Okay, so the Broncos can go there and have their entire roster be injured and have the terrible turf and all of that stuff. So the turf monsters that actually live in Arizona. That's the one last nugget there that I'd be perfectly fine.
Can we please stop saying that word? You've been saying that word so much the last few days. I'm starting to take it personal.
Sorry. I think that's one that I just want to shed a little sun on, is that Arizona Cardinals game there in Phoenix.
One more tidbit.
In Phoenix. If the Chiefs can just booker their way right out of town in that one. So.
Wow. I used to think you guys liked each other. Now I'm not so sure.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm just jokering.
Not feeling the love.
I'm going to go. You know who else isn't feeling love? Me.
Just jokering.
Stupid.
Not a big deal, man. Come on, chill out.
You're older than Chris Paul. Relax.
I want you to know that, and I'm not being paid for this, but ever since I heard Nate Bukaty say the words 810 meat bundle, I have been fascinated in the Green Grass Cattle Company. I mean, that is all I've been able to think about.
Yeah, the 810 meat bundle. Well, you know what? Take advantage of that. The 810 meat bundle.
I would be heading to Weston right now if I wasn't on the phone with you guys.
I bet you would be. You hear meat bundle, and Matt Derrick is there. Shocker, Nate's the one that's there, letting everybody know about the meat bundle.
That can also be in your schedule release video with Ron Swanson, the meat bundle, because that would be right up Ron's alley.
My favorite Swansonism was the skim milk one, when he said, there are two things I hate in this world, liars and skim milk. Skim milk is just lying about being milk. It's water lying about being
classic.
milk. I love it. Liars and skim milk. Matt Derrick is our guest. He's neither a liar nor will he put up with your skim milk drinking. Donovan Smith. We talked about it last week, them signing him and what that meant sort of for this year and moving forward. Since we have last talked, we know that the Chiefs view Donovan Smith now as their left tackle, as running with the ones, and we know that the contract is $3 million for the base salary, but it is up to $9 million. So what do you think of now if we are looking at the starting five as it stands currently, being Donovan Smith on the left side, Tooney, Creed, Trey Smith, and then Jawan Taylor at right tackle? What are your thoughts now as it stands heading into phase 2 and mini camps and OTAs and then ultimately training camp in the season?
I mean, on paper, I don't have a problem with the line. I mean, that's with my assumption that based on what we saw last year from Donovan Smith and knowing the nature of the injury, that it's an elbow injury. Those things usually, come back. Wasn't a lower body injury that you would expect to bother him in some way. The elbow injury is absolutely going to zap your pass protection skills, which his were last year. If he's back to 100%, then I think it's reasonable to expect, especially at his age and the career that he's had at this point in his arc, that he's going to be pretty close to the guy he was 2 years ago. And if that's the case, that's a decent left tackle. So I think you're in pretty good shape there. Now, what the Chiefs are doing, and I don't think there's any doubt about it, is that they're just protecting themselves and giving them as many options. And going into OTAs with the Smith as the starting left tackle is very consistent with the way that Andy Reid and Andy Heck like to structure their offensive line competition and go about things. Unless your name is Creed Humphrey or Trey Smith, even Trey Smith didn't come in as a starter. I mean, Creed was the only one that was starting from day one. Usually it's veterans who get that job, and then the other guys have to push them and win the position. So I think that's absolutely going to be the case here. If one of those younger guys or a rookie is going to be playing on this offensive line at one of the tackle positions, it's going to be because they're going to have to win it and push. And that's just their motto and the way they go about things, and it's obviously worked pretty well for them. But I don't think what you can have is you don't necessarily want a position where you're putting those young guys into the lineup, they fail, and then Donovan Smith is all of a sudden just, he's your tackle by default.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way you want to structure the competition and camp. So I think they put it put it together the way that they want and need. Based on the contract that Donovan Smith signed, could you say, hey, this isn't starter level money? Sure. I mean, it's a very friendly deal for the Chiefs, and it does make me curious about why that was the case. Were there just not any other teams interested in Smith? Was he more, interested in getting a deal with a team that has playoff potential? I mean, we haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, so I'll be very interested in what his motivations were with coming to Kansas City. But I think that right now that's the best decision for this team, and it's the one that still gives them the most flexibility and versatility, and that is what Brett Veach has been saying about that position all off season, is that they're just looking for options and trying to create different choices so that they're kind of protected with whatever comes along.
It makes sense that if you're on a one-year prove-it deal that the Chiefs might be a team that you want to go to, especially offensively. And I know that Juju 2 years ago did not do that, but he also returned to Pittsburgh. It wasn't that Pittsburgh had cut him and said, we're moving on from you. He was a free agent. He returned to Pittsburgh for one more year. Big Ben retires. He's a free agent. Now he's willing to go somewhere else. Oh, hey, Kansas City wants me. What about a one-year prove-it deal in Kansas City with the Chiefs? Worked out pretty well because then he got a 3-year deal with the New England Patriots. The one-year prove-it deal for Donovan Smith, it's not like the Bucs said, okay, you're a free agent, but we want you back on a one-year deal. Okay, I'll return there. I know the offense. I'm familiar with it. I live in Tampa. I know how to get to the stadium and back. There's a comfort level to it. No, they don't want you. Okay, well, there's a team that wants you that gives you a chance to play left tackle. And if you're looking for a one-year prove-it deal, you can do that in the Chiefs offense and try to win a ring and go and prove that you're good enough to protect Patrick Mahomes. That makes total sense for Donovan Smith to do that. And if he took less money, and again, you're right, we haven't talked to him, so what are his motivations there? Were the Chiefs the only team that was willing to say, hey, we will give you the chance as the number one left tackle right now? You still have to go out and make sure you win the job, but when it comes to the competition, somebody's got to go out there with the ones. That's you, but here's the contract. It's a one-year deal, and you'll be 30, turning 31 next year at this time. If you can prove you're back to 2020, 2021 seasons, then you can go out and make some good money, and you can, hopefully win a Super Bowl.
And typically players of his caliber, this is kind of the very end of their peak runs. I mean, this is not usually when they fall off a cliff. So, and he showed no signs of that, 2 years ago. And frankly, if you look at, his rush grades last year, they were pretty consistent with his career. And that's, once again, what you typically see with an offensive lineman that has an elbow injury. It's going to be terrible in pass protection because he can't get that arm extension, has no power in that arm to be able to stop people. He's got to be able to cheat to try and, protect that elbow a little bit. And you can't play that way. I mean, you're basically playing pass protection with your feet entirely and not your arms. And you just can't do that effectively. So they'll find out pretty quickly. I mean, it won't even be deep into training camp. I mean, they'll probably find out in OTAs whether they feel like that elbow is there or not. But certainly by the time that the pads come on in August, they'll know for sure what that they've got in Smith. And if he's who they think he is, then Chiefs are going to be pretty happy.
The expectation is that they got better at right tackle. They paid Jawaan Taylor that amount of money because if he's playing right tackle, they damn sure better be better at right tackle than they were with Wiley, who's making significantly less. If Jawaan Taylor is an upgrade over Andrew Wiley, what percentage does Donovan Smith need to be of Orlando Brown a year ago for it to be either an even trade-off or even a net gain between the two? What percentage of Orlando Brown does Donovan Smith need to be for this to go, you know what, they're a better offensive line, these five guys across the board, than they were a year ago?
Good question. I mean, because to a degree, I would say that it's more about he needs to be better in pass protection than Orlando was, but if he's not as good in the run game and run blocking as Orlando was, that's okay. So to me, it's more of, we need to see the right skill set in Donovan Smith. We need to see the right work out of him because he's going to give up some sacks. There's no doubt about it. But if he's going to, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I mean, I think was it Orlando maybe gave up 6 sacks last year, and obviously, he and Andrew Wiley had some of the highest totals as far as pressures allowed. But then again, They also played the most snaps in pass protection of almost any tackles in the league. So it's a little bit of a gray area. But that's where you need to come down. I mean, you need your left tackle to be allowing less pressure on your quarterback than they did a year ago. So in that regard, he needs to be better than Orlando was. But like I said, I mean, in the run game, that's not what you're paying your left tackles in this offense to do. And I think they feel like that Donovan Smith is athletic enough to do some of the things that is their bread and butter, maybe a little bit more of the outside zone stuff. They obviously have a really good interior that they're going to lean on as well. Those guys can get downfield and then get outside. So that to me is, to a degree, I mean, you're asking Donovan Smith, don't worry about last year when you were really good in the run and you were kind of terrible in pass protection. We need the exact opposite out of you this year. I mean, we need you to be really good in the pass game. and whatever you give us in the run game is going to be fine.
Mission number one is to protect Patrick Mahomes with the offensive line. That much we know. Also, the number of sacks given up by Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley doesn't really move me one way or another. It's more the pressure percentage, the win rate, and the pressures given up. Wiley and Orlando Brown had a pretty large amount. The reason the sacks don't move me one way or another is because Patrick Mahomes is so good at avoiding sacks. He was the best in the league. He's been one of the best, if not the best in the league, the last few years of turning pressures into not sacks, turning pressures into plays that did not result in a sack. He was number one last year. He's been near the top every single year. So from that standpoint, we'll see what Donovan Smith can be. He gave up a lot of sacks. He also had a statue back there, but a statue that typically got rid of the ball pretty quickly, but also a statue back there that usually gets rid of the ball pretty quickly, but last year had his mind everywhere but on the game. I mean, he should not have – the way that he finished the season, it sucks, or his career, he probably should not have returned, but we know now that all of the things going on behind the scenes, that Tom Brady wasn't your typical Tom Brady where every single week he was locked in and the next play is the most important play and, everything's going to be figured out, that his mind was distracted elsewhere. And if that's the case, is there motivation going on? All of that stuff. I bring that up because, mission number one, protect Patrick Mahomes. But part of the conversation we've had, Matt, is Pacheco and what the running game can do to alleviate some of the stress on Patrick Mahomes instead of just saying, go out and do it, Patrick, be our savior, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope, go do this. The running game has helped, but you're bringing in Jawaan Taylor, who has been pretty darn good at pass blocking, but has been pretty substandard at run blocking. And if Donovan Smith is substandard at run blocking and improves at the pass blocking part of it, you're throwing two guys in there where Orlando Brown was a pretty good run blocker, to where now you're sort of, taking a step back from that standpoint, that it was part of the positive of last year was how well their running game was coming along.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point to me too, which is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'll expand upon it. There's I think a little bit of a knock that some people have against Donovan Smith last year, and we'll say, well, he played hurt, and maybe you should have shut him down, all those things. I think that's a trait that, frankly, this team loves in a guy like Donovan Smith, because he's an Iron Man. I mean, he plays all the time. I mean, hasn't missed that many games in his entire career. He played through a lot of pain and struggles last year, and that's what they kind of want. I mean, it's an old-school football mentality, but Andy Reid's kind of, in some ways, an old-school football coach. Andy Hack, same way. They kind of want that mentality that, hey, I'm going to stay out there and protect that quarterback because that's my job. That's as they say, Jason, he's got that dog in him. I know you guys would love that.
Apparently so does Pacheco. He's got that dog in him as well with the surgeries that he has had. Last one for you, and then we'll take a break, and I want to get your thoughts on Mahomes' contract briefly. Matt Lane brought this up yesterday. I thought it was an interesting point. I was asking him what the strategy was. Did they go into this offseason saying Jawaan Taylor will be our left tackle, and then they adjusted on the fly? Or did they go into this offseason saying, Jawaan Taylor, we're signing him to be one of our offensive linemen, and if we can't find a left tackle, we will put him over at left tackle, and we'll figure that stuff out? And he said, he said the reason I think the plan was that Jawaan Taylor was the left tackle, and then they've adjusted on the fly, is when Andy Reid was asked about Donovan Smith, and he said, yeah, Jawaan Taylor can go back to the right side. He'll go back to the right side, meaning in their mind, Jawaan Taylor was their left tackle. Does that stand out to you when you hear Andy Reid's like, no, he'll go back to the right side? And do you think the strategy all along was, you sign Jawaan Taylor and he's going to be our left tackle, but then as the offseason progressed, oh wait, here's Donovan Smith, and you know what, Jawaan Taylor can go back to the right side?
Well, and there's been a lot of parsing of these statements, and I'm just not sure that we have all not just absolutely taken so many of the words kind of at face value. Maybe we just didn't get it all explained to us as well as we needed to. Maybe we're all fourth graders and we just need it spelled out A, B, C, D. But I think the Chiefs were relatively clear the whole time that when they signed Jawaan Taylor, their expectation was that, well, right now he's the best left tackle on the roster. Mm-hmm. But we're not done yet. It's March. And we're not going to get on the field until late May. There's free agency, there is a draft, there's late free agency, there's a lot of time to go. And if this team ended up with a left tackle, then Jawan Taylor was going to be the right tackle. So, Andy Reid probably in his mind, I think both those things can be true. I think that Brett Veach can sign Jawan Taylor with the idea that he is going to play left tackle if I don't find one. And so then maybe Andy Reid in his mind is saying, he's going to go back to the right tackle, even though he hasn't played left tackle yet, because the team hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think both those sides can be true, and I think at least from what Brett Veach has told us, I think he followed through on his plan, which was Jawan Taylor's guy they signed. He was going to be one of their tackles. If he had to play left tackle, he could. That's why they signed him, was because they believed that of all the guys who were out there, he was the one that has the ability to play both positions if needed. And they had some guys in their mind, whether it was in the draft and free agency. They finally got one of the guys that they wanted as potential play left tackle. And whether that was plan A, B, C, or D, maybe even E and F. I mean, we can debate that. I don't think it was plan A necessarily, but what they thought when they signed Jawan Taylor was, we're drafting him as a placeholder left tackle. He's going to play right if we can find a left. Yeah. They found the left, and that's exactly what happened.
We know the best on the roster for the quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk about his contract very briefly, if he is the highest paid player in the NFL when they start the season against the Detroit Lions. We do that next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey folks, this is Nate Bucati, and I'm coming to you from Greengrass.
All right, Matt, Mike Florio saying that people aware of the situation, something along those lines, expect Patrick Mahomes to be the highest paid player in the NFL annual average value when the season starts on September 7th, waiting for, obviously, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow to have their deals done. Is that your expectation, that when Herbert and Burrow, the deal is done, that Patrick Mahomes will have an annual average value, average per year, at least a penny more than whichever quarterback is the highest paid in history?
It's certainly possible. It still wouldn't surprise me if it took a little bit longer than that. At least publicly, with what people have said. Clark Hunt was asked about that during the draft, and pointed out, well, he's only 1 year into the 10-year extension, which is kind of hard to believe, but it is actually true. And there was always the expectation that this deal was going to get reworked. I mean, this was always viewed by the Chiefs and Mahomes as a representation, as a framework. So they're going to infuse more money into it at some point. Hey, could it happen sooner than earlier just because of the way that the market has changed and there is a little bit more money coming into the salary cap, maybe faster than was at least one point expected? Sure. I mean, 25 was always kind of the year that was circled, to my understanding, is the target date, but it could certainly happen earlier. But to me, it's going to be what the Chiefs and Mahomes did with the last deal. It's going to be something creative. It's not going to be something that's kind of a standard contract. I mean, they're not tied to this notion that I think everybody else around the league is, that guaranteed a contract and everything is all be all. I mean, obviously the rolling guarantees and the Mahomes deal as it is, it's fairly innovative, and I wouldn't be surprised if they continue something along those lines. And Chiefs have a couple of really smart guys, and Brant Tillis and Chris Shea doing the numbers on those deals, and so they're going to be fine with however they structure it. But it wouldn't surprise me if it took longer than just the next couple of months.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's what you would say is what reasonably should be expected based on your conversations with folks aware of the dynamics of the situation?
Well, that is a very interesting way to put it. And I was just surprised to see Florio on this, because I did not know that he was still watching the NFL.
There you go. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for it. I didn't know if Josh was going to get there, or because he was like, "Hey, I got something real quick." Had the hold the finger in the air, like how I'm a little drop in here, which was good to repeat exactly what Florio
Direct
said.
quote there.
But then Matt Derrick, hitting the fastball down the middle.
Set him up, knock him down.
That's exactly right.
I just felt like you guys were just dishing the ball around and trying to get to me that in the hoop, and so
That's right.
You guys, your ball work was amazing. I haven't seen ball work like that. When was the last time the Suns won a game?
I was going to say that was better offensive chemistry that we've all had than the Suns have put up, but I was too busy writing down the timestamp for when you started talking about ball work. So
yeah, if you guys missed that, tune in about 1:45.
We're going to have to get this one for this week's edition.
Got about an hour and 45 minutes to be able to hear that one again. Matt, as always, brother, appreciate it. Enjoy the week. We will talk next week. And no doubt there'll be plenty of other things in the NFL to talk about, because every single week there's more stuff to discuss. So thank you, sir, as always. And check out that Titans video and let me know what you think about the Red Stallions. Rawr.
Next thing on my agenda.
There you go. Awesome. Matt, you're the man. There's Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Connor Rogers, Pro Football Focus NFL Draft Exchange, and Jets
Dr.
pregame.
Andrew Palmisano, a fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon with Ascentus Healthcare. Ascentus now has
Thank you to Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. We continue rolling here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Friday. Presented by Google Fiber is The Zone, award-winning internet without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. Let's talk some NFL football. We continue our NFL conversation with Connor Rogers. NBC Sports covers the draft. Great podcast with Trevor Sikkema and the Draft Stock Exchange, and also with the New York Jets pre- and post-game host. Connor, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm great, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, thank you for being on the show. I really enjoy the podcast. We talk with Trevor semi-frequently throughout the year and certainly around draft season. So was looking forward to having you on. Before we get into some draft stuff, are you a geek for the schedule release like a lot of us are? Or do you just simply look at it's the schedule and then go about your day?
I think I look at it from my personal schedule and wonder which holidays I'll tell my
That's right.
family I will not be present for at this point, especially with the Jets having, 5 primetime games. So that's the most interesting part to me because, as you guys know very well, what these teams actually look like 6 to 7 months right from now, whether it's injuries, overperforming, underperforming, we just don't know. But the NFL has done a master class of making it a very fun event.
And a Black Friday, right? With the Jets this year, correct?
That's right.
So you got Thanksgiving
3
off
against Miami.
Yeah, so you got Thanksgiving off. They play Thursday of the New Year's Eve week, so you don't have to work New Year's Eve. That's not too bad. And Christmas Eve, not Christmas.
I did pretty well.
Yeah.
I did really, really well. Christmas Eve is the big one, and, I like Sunday Night Football, so that's fun. Listen, I made out really, really well this year, and I think it's going to be, Jets got the Chiefs on primetime as well. There's a lot of fun ones on there.
Yeah. Josh, who do the show with, he does the postgame for the Chiefs. He saw New Year's Eve and Christmas. He wasn't exactly excited about that. He's
brutal. Hey, when
cool.
you got the best player on the planet, that's what you sign up for.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly right. He's like, look, for him, it's a lot of late night post games, a lot of late evening post games because of those 3:30 games on the Central Time 3:30. He's got that. Not many noon games for the Chiefs this year. Just 2 of them. One of those on Christmas. So.
The night games and the night post games not bad. Doing this show the next morning, not my favorite turnaround.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's a good point.
That's the difference. I'm working in 2 different states. We work in New York City for Jets pre and post, and then I'm in Connecticut for NBC the following weekdays for the fantasy show. So I feel you on that one.
There you go. Connor Rogers is our guest. NBC Sports, Draft, Fantasy Football, New York Jets pre and post, and also NFL Draft Stock Exchange, Pro Football Focus with Trevor Sikkema. Real quick on the Jets, and then I want to get into the Chiefs draft and what you guys have talked about there. This is obviously a season that's much anticipated, and the personnel is really good, and you throw in Aaron Rodgers. But while you made out pretty well in terms of your own schedule, it doesn't look like the NFL schedule makers did the Jets any favors starting out of the gates with the first 6 games of the year and then the bye week in week 7, which is never great when you play 6 games, you get the bye week, and then you got to play 11 straight to end the season. If you make the postseason, it's 12 straight, all of that. What's the conversation around there to what the first month / 6 games before the bye week looks like for the Jets?
It looks tough, but when you really sit down and go through it, the AFC is just brutal. If you're in the AFC, this is largely what you're dealing with. And if you want to be considered a good team, you got to go out and beat some of the good teams. So you made the win-now move of getting Aaron Rodgers. The travel, guys, is really not that bad for the Jets. They don't go overseas this year. It feels like they play overseas every single year. They just don't have any really wild trips. I know they go out to Vegas, but overall the travel's pretty light for them. Yes, the opponents are really, really good, but if you want to be one of the big dogs in the AFC, that's just the nature of the beast this year. So I feel like, sure, the Jets are probably reacting that way, but I bet there's a lot of teams in the AFC thinking the same exact thing.
Yeah. Connor Rogers is our guest. Let's talk about the Chiefs draft. Obviously much discussed around here the last couple of weeks. What do you make of what the Chiefs were able to come away with in their draft with FAU and Rashee Rice and Wanya Morris and then 4 other picks on day 3? What's your reaction and assessment of the Chiefs?
It felt like they really zoned in on finding complements to what they already have, right? And in a draft where there just wasn't this overwhelming amount of star talent, I understand that. Draft for your scheme, right? Because it just increases the chance of the player having a higher floor, right? Did I value Rashee Rice where they took him? Not necessarily, and I don't think a lot of people did. But when you look at Rice's skill set, it fits with Mahomes. I mean, Rice is an acrobat that maybe his best attribute of his game is working back to the quarterback when the play extends. He was highly productive in SMU. Obviously, there's a relationship there with the quarterback, it seems like. He's a bigger-bodied wide receiver in an offense that maybe they thought, hey, we need a little bit more size on the outside. And this is a wide receiver class that good luck finding that size. It was just filled with slot receivers and gadget guys as well. So Rice fits the Chiefs' offense, and I think you can overdraft a guy when you just think he's tailored to what you want to do. When you look at Morris, depth on the offensive line is key, right? It feels like the Chiefs are going into a year where they're okay with having somebody like Donovan Smith, who's projected as that one-year starter. So you get somebody like Awanye Morris, who's played a lot of right tackle for Oklahoma, and you sit there and go, okay, how can we develop his traits into this offense that he doesn't have to start right away? And then, you're going back to even Felix Anudike Uzama. He brings a little bit more of a finesse pass rush to George Karlaftis' power profile. So, honestly, my favorite pick, ironically, from them was B.J. Thompson. If you're going to take a project pass rusher, this would have been the guy to do so. 6'6", length. He's won in a lot of different ways. He's even unlocked a spin move. So, listen, he might not play a lot this year, but when you're trying to build a pass rush stable because you get into the playoffs and you see the likes of the Joe Burrows and Trevor Lawrence of the world, you got to rush the quarterback. That's an interesting guy to develop in the long term.
That's an interesting one because it's not a name we have heard many people bring up, especially, after the first three, right? And I mean, Shamari Connors talked about because they traded up for him, and he gave up a 5th rounder in next year's draft to go and get Shamari Connors. It's like, okay, well, he better be good. Keandre Coburn's talked about because, boy, he fills a role for this Chiefs team that, Nadi's on a 1-year deal. They brought him back. He struggled last year. If Coburn can be that guy that can be, first and second down, and the Chiefs have Turk Wharton, and they can move a Minihue inside, and FAU, and even Dana was good last year. Like, they've got a lot of choices when it comes to third down, but Dana or Nadi has taken a step back. So if Coburn can fill that role, that's been talked about. But B.J. Thompson's kind of just been overlooked and glossed over. And Connor, the reason it is, I think it's because people have Joshua Kando on their mind from a few years ago as a 4th rounder that just never did anything. And it was like, he's got all the physical traits. He's an athletic freak. He didn't produce at Florida State, but man, you get him into the Chiefs and blah, 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 and then you get a year to develop. And he's probably one of the odd men out and probably not going to make the team. And B.J. Thompson is like, okay, here's the new Josh Kando. So that would be my, I guess, reason why there hasn't been much talk about him around here. So it's really interesting to hear you bring him up as one of your favorite picks for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's ceiling fatigue, right? I understand why draft fans or fans of any team are like, okay, cool, we took the Tracy Project guy on day 3 that people will get hyped over on one preseason play and then we'll never hear his name again. I think why I was fascinated with B.J. Thompson was I got through his film pretty late. We were about 3 weeks out of the draft, and you're trying to grind through as many projected 6th, 7th rounders and UDFAs as you can. And I get to him, and I'm like, this guy is not a 6th or 7th rounder. I think he's easily in my top 200 players. And I just feel like he's been overlooked throughout the entire process. And then when the draft comes, you go, oh, maybe he wasn't, because the Chiefs take him in the 5th round, pick 166 overall. I think that's at least where he should have gone because of the different skill set he has to win on the outside. If you just say, hey, pin your ears back and go. We don't want you to contain the run. We don't want you to two-gap. He brought up Coburn, right? You have him to do the dirty work on the inside. That makes a ton of sense in a rotational role. So when you're looking and with Thompson, I mean, he's somebody that had over a 9 in a relative athletic score. He's a freak athlete, an NFL caliber athlete. So I like taking those dart throws on day 3 rather than low floor special teams only kind of players.
Visiting with Connor Rogers, Pro Football Focus, NFL Draft Stock Exchange podcast, but NBC Sports with covering the NFL Draft and fantasy football and New York Jets pre and post. This is a team that, they pick at the end of the round because, it's the pro tax, I guess, or the good tax. When you're really good and you're successful, you're going to pick late. And so it's kind of hard to come away with studs here and there. But you're right about finding compliments to what they already have. We've talked about a quote-unquote luxury draft, and I think the Chiefs made a mistake. Most people see that now when they had a, quote, luxury and they took Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. Not only the position, but you passed up on Jonathan Taylor. Next couple of picks were T. Higgins and yada, yada, yada. This was a luxury draft, and maybe it's learning the lesson a little bit, Connor. A luxury in terms of the Chiefs didn't have a glaring need, like you got to go out and get this guy to go and start for you. But in that draft, their first 3 picks were edge, wide receiver, and tackle, as opposed to the luxury draft of 2020 was running back and off-ball linebacker.
Exactly. Take premium positions and provide your franchise with depth, because everybody complains about having too much depth until a year goes by and your entire team is hurt, or you lose everybody to free agency, because when you win the Super Bowl, everybody pays the Super Bowl tax to sign away your free agents.
Yeah.
So I like that strategy. I defer to that strategy, and I think that's exactly what the Chiefs did here. So it makes a ton of sense, especially, once again, on a draft where you look at by the time. I'm very harsh with grades that we do on PFF Stock Exchange Pod. If you are picking at the end of the round, it's going to be very hard for you to come out of this with an A in the draft unless teams made gigantic mistakes across the board and you're not rebuilding and have a million picks. I have no problem with the steady Eddie drafts of just, hey, we need depth here, we need this kind of player here, and we're doing it at positions that matter and alter games, and that's how the Chiefs viewed this draft.
And because one of those things is when you trade away Tyreek Hill, you're trading away a star. And I don't think you're trying to get star for star. If you're trading away a star, the part of the strategy was they wanted to become younger, deeper, and less expensive. And if you're going to do that, then you're taking it's casting a wide net over, the draft and getting as many players as possible, getting that depth. So you're not going out and saying, well, we got to pay $13 million for this cornerback because we're just simply stuck. No, they let Charvarius Ward walk, and he gets a lot of money in San Francisco, and they replenish it with McDuffie, Watson, and Williams. And so part of it is the strategy, Connor, and I've talked about it with the the process in Philadelphia. Like, trust the process. I don't hate the strategy of the tanking and getting draft picks. Difference between strategy and execution, where, you use some of those resources, you might use them poorly. Doesn't mean the strategy was off. For the Chiefs, I like the strategy of trading Tyreek Hill, but what's the execution? And it seems like Brett Veach in the front office, at least last year already, that they've executed pretty darn well. If it is you lose a star so that you can get deeper in other places, less expensive, and you don't have glaring holes at certain spots while you do have a force multiplier, a difference maker on one side of the ball.
That's exactly right, and this is the conundrum of having one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And Mahomes' contract already looks pretty dang good, ironically, but still, by the time you have to pay a quarterback, you run into a situation where you go, okay, these are the areas of the roster that we're willing to allocate a lot of money to. What are the areas that we feel like we can still get by with on rookie deals or the tier 2, 3, and 4 moves of free agency? Like, look at the Donovan Smith deal, right? It's one of those ones where you go, okay, we have the pull power because we're a winning franchise. We are a very offensive line-friendly franchise because Mahomes, honestly, bails guys out of situations where they would be credited for sacks, pressures, whatever it may be. So you have that convincing power to get guys to sign with you on those one-year kind of pillow deals or bridge deals, whatever you want to call them. So he's done a really good job with that, stockpiling through the draft. And, I mean, they have the greatest quarterback in the world that can lift up everyone around him. So, yeah, I'd go pay the Chris Jones of the world if that was my scenario, because he's the guy that completely alters the game when Mahomes is off the field.
That's right. Mahomes alters the game, so you can get away with not having Tyreek Hill because you've got Mahomes. You don't have Mahomes on the defense when you lose Chris Jones to alter the game. He's the closest you get to Mahomes on the defensive side. He does so much for a lot of other people. Connor Rogers is our guest. NBC Sports Draft and Fantasy Football and Pro Football Focus's NFL Draft Stock Exchange with Trevor Sikkema. You had your top players out there by position, and Rashee Rice was number 14 for the wide receivers. What do you like, and what are your concerns about Rashee Rice to where you had a number of these guys ranked ahead of him?
What I like is that he's been really productive. He's been the focal point of a pass-heavy offense before. He's somebody that can win in traffic, go up and win the football at the catch point. And obviously, like I said, his ability to naturally flow back to the quarterback when the play goes off the script is pretty natural to him. It's not something that he has to work on. He just gets that, and that's something that he'll be able to do right away. The thing that concerned me was I thought his play did dip off when he played better teams, and SMU got to feast on a lot of really poor programs, and you can't control who you play as a player, so you don't completely kill him for that. But I want to see the play speed improve. I thought he was a guy that, yes, he's a big-time tester, a big-time leaper, but the actual explosiveness into the routes and through the route and through the catch is something that I think will have to take up a level at the NFL level where every corner can turn and run with you. So I think that's a big one for him, but he goes into the luxury of an offense where you're not always asked to do that. You're schemed up a little bit better. There's a lot more opportunities on the second and third levels of the play. Once again, because you have a Mahomes, you have a good coaching staff that understands how to put guys into roles to succeed, and he offers size, and he offers run blocking. I thought he was a really, really good run blocker on the outside as well, and if you can't block at all as a rookie wide receiver, it's going to be hard for an offensive coordinator to trust putting you on the field. So there's a lot of things that Rice does well already out of the gate, and I think the Chiefs valued that rather than taking a guy with a bigger ceiling but also a much longer learning curve, because the Chiefs are trying to win another Super Bowl this year rather than rebuild and look towards 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah, and Chiefs offense, they value the ability to block. And Rashee Rice certainly brings that element to the table. Was this a year, Connor, to where, you know, we see wide receivers in the past and we see the high-end wide receivers, and maybe every year after 3 or 4 it turns into the beauty as in the eye of the beholder. It feels like this year it was magnified and to the extreme that, you know, after 3 or 4, you might have a team that, okay, Mingo went as the 5th receiver, and then Reed went next, and then, you know, it's Rashee Rice, and then Cedric Tillman goes in the 3rd round, and Jalen Hyatt later on, and Josh Downs, and these different players that were all over different people's draft boards. Was this one of those years, to maybe more than another, that after you got past the first couple 3, really, depending on the team, you can see somebody that you know, another team had a 3rd round grade on and this guy went early 2nd. Another team had a 2nd round grade on and somehow he was there in the 4th. Is that like that every year, or was this year one of those where it just felt like it could be scattered more than another?
It was magnified and amplified this year, and that's probably one of the hardest parts of my job, is that when you get a class that the wide receivers are all in different shapes, sizes, skill sets, you know, I'm going to evaluate them across the board, while there are teams that don't want to draft wide receivers under 6 feet tall, or there's a team that needs a slot receiver. Like, look at the Colts getting Josh Downs as late as they did. Josh Downs is a great player, good special teams player, excellent hands, understands spacing. He's a slot only. He's a very small receiver that did not run in the 4.3s, and the same could be said for Zay Flowers, by the way. There's just not a ton of teams that'll take those guys really, really early, naturally. But they're really good players, but they need to go into defined roles that might not exist for that team because everybody's already got their slot guy. They grow on trees at this point. So that definitely moved up the Rices of the world, the Mingos of the world, who were solid players, not spectacular players, but they offered a size element that fit what those offenses want to do and what they need right out of the gate. So I think that absolutely matters, and it's a huge part of the evaluation process, doing it from a national scale compared to a team-by-team basis.
Couple quick ones for you, and we'll let you go. Which team got better? What was the team that got better the most?
Seattle. I mean, Seattle just crushed it top to bottom. They got 2 interior players for their offensive line that could probably start next year. They got the best receiver in the draft in Jackson Smith-Njigba. They got the best cornerback in the draft and could be the best defensive player when all is said and done in the draft in Devin Witherspoon. And then in the AFC, the Steelers just did a great job. They became a tougher football team. They made their decision already with Kenny Pickett. I don't think Kenny Pickett will ever be a top, 5 to 6 quarterback in the AFC. So what do? You set up for him to be successful with the talent around him. You get tougher on the defensive side of the ball, a physical press corner in Joey Porter, a guy that can play nose tech and 3-tech in Keanu Benton. You get Darnell Washington. They like to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and now you have him in Freiermuth, whether it's run blocking, red zone threat. I love what those teams have done, and they just hit on value. And fortunately, when you have a lot of draft picks also, that's something that you're able to do.
Last one for you, Connor Rogers, our guest. Next year, this was viewed as sort of a weaker draft, I guess. Not as many first-round grades. Is next year back to the normal? Is it better than what typically is going to be for first-round grades, or another year of what we're seeing this year? What's an early view of the 2024 draft?
Yeah, the early view, the surface-level view, is it'll bounce back. It'll be better, and that's just because it'll have superstars. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that already think Caleb Williams and Drake May and maybe even Michael Penix can be star quarterbacks. Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe will be the best wide receiver prospect we've seen since Jamar Chase. That'll be really interesting to track. He just looks unbelievable. There is stars in the trenches. Olu Fashanu on Penn State, the franchise left tackle. Jared Verse. Jared Verse, if he came out this year, same with Fashanu, they would have been guys in the trenches that would have went in the top 7 or 8 of this draft, and they went back to school, which is wild to me. So next year has a really, really good baseline foundation already.
Interesting. We'll see what happens. Connor Rogers, Pro Football Focus, NFL Draft Stock Exchange podcast, and NBC Sports with the fantasy and the NFL Draft, and, of course, New York Jets pre and post with SNY TV. Connor, really appreciate the time, man. Enjoyed it, and looking forward to maybe catching up down the road and certainly listening to the Draft Stock Exchange as you guys put those episodes out.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. You too. There's Connor Rogers. Good stuff. I love the Draft Stock Exchange podcast. We've had Trevor Sikkema on a number of times, and his co-host there, Connor Rogers. Not expecting to hear the pick I liked the most with the Chiefs was B.J. Thompson. That is not a name we have talked about, which is why I love having different people on just to get different opinions and different views and things like that. He's not very high on Rashee Rice. Again, he had Rashee Rice as his 14th wide receiver in the draft. Here's how he ranked the wide receivers, if you're wondering. Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Cedric Tillman, his 4th, Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, Tyler Scott, Tank Dell, Jonathan Mingo, Michael Wilson, A.T. Perry, Rashee Rice. And, it's one person's opinion. Chiefs clearly did not have Rashee Rice down that far. Interesting. And he didn't have FAU higher ranked either, but, his point was, and I think it's an interesting one of sort of judging, here's what I think, here's what the team is doing, but do I give him an F because I had this guy as the 8th defensive end and they took him as the 5th defensive end or the 4th defensive end? Well, that's just dumb. Well, they're taking people that are complementary pieces to what they already have to where they're hitting baselines across the board. When you've got Patrick Mahomes and some other stars, you don't want to miss on a first rounder. You don't have a 0 on your first and second round grade. Can you get guys that complement other pieces to continue winning, will be around for the next 3 or 4 years, and can help you along the way with guys you already have in position to start, that you don't have to put a lot on those particular players' plates, because you're also picking at the end of the round with having the Super Bowl tax, the really good team tax that the Chiefs pay every single year. So, and also a great point on like wide receiver. Look, I've got this guy ranked here, but while I've got, he's got Josh Downs. He talked about him. He's like the 7th wide receiver. It's like, yeah, but everybody's got that slot guy. He's my 7th wide receiver as best of this group, but which teams are looking for that particular player? I mean, the Chiefs weren't going to go small slot in terms of like specifically Josh Downs because Zay Flowers can do a lot of different things. But Josh Downs is a slot. He's a slot receiver. That's what he is. Chiefs have Sky Moore. They have Kadarius Toney. They use other guys in the slot. They don't need to go and get a guy who's specifically smaller guy, kick, punt return, special teams, and here's your slot receiver. So that sort of puts you into a certain area to where you're going to be exclusive to a certain number of teams. And all of a sudden, a guy who is viewed as, hey, this is one of the top 7 receivers in this class is there in the 3rd round. Because the Colts are like, well, we need this spot now. Other teams are like, no, we got it filled. So interesting from that standpoint. And maybe it's also the lack of size in this draft as to why you see Mingo as the 5th receiver and Rashee Rice as the 7th receiver. Although Cedric Tillman a little bit later on. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer. A little bit look at the schedule. We'll also talk some Royals baseball as they've won yet again. Boy, they can just bunt their way to a victory. It's just what they do, man. They find ways to win. That's the mark of a good team, is how do you win games? And they just simply win games. It's what the Royals do. It's remarkable, phenomenal. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the...
NFL Network right now is replaying the AFC Championship game, Chiefs and Bengals. I like the Chiefs by 3 in this one. Something like 23-20, maybe?
That sounds about
Something
right.
like that?
You think
Something
you're going to get stressed out at any point? Doubt the result?
No.
Any nerves?
No, not at all. I mean, so far in this game, the Chiefs are all over Joe Burrow. So I think that's going to continue. And Mahomes' ankle looks fine.
Where is this game again?
It's in Kansas City.
Okay, so Burrowhead.
Did we talk about the reason why Baltimore started the season on the road?
No, we did solve it, though.
We did solve it. Text came in earlier that said, the Orioles refused to move their game because we were talking about the teams that won the Super Bowl. They have, I think back in 2003 is when they started that the next year, the team that won the Super Bowl would open the season on a Thursday night. They would start off the season Super Bowl champions. And the team to play the road game, the only team that has been sent on the road for the first week of the season, defending Super Bowl champions since they went down this route, was Baltimore, and the Ravens had to go to Denver in 2013 after winning the 2012 Super Bowl because the Baltimore Orioles refused to move their game that day. The NFL asked Baltimore if they could move their night game from September 5th in 2013, move the night game to an earlier game or a different day, but they said no. We are not going to move our game that day. So the NFL had to send the Ravens on the road to start the year. They share the same parking lot. So the scheduling, logistics would have been a nightmare for trying to figure that out when the Orioles were playing a night game and the NFL and the Ravens were playing a night game. So they had to start off on the road that year so that the Orioles could start off a homestand that day against the White Sox while they were 4 games out of first place in September.
Just goes to show the NFL can be ever so slightly inconvenienced.
Take that.
With an average baseball team and a little bit of annoyance.
But you know what that did, though? You know what that did for that Baltimore Oriole team? It showed them, everybody in the clubhouse, it showed them the organization is so confident in what you guys can do. We are not kowtowing to the NFL. We're going to stand up to the big bad bully NFL, and we're not moving our game. They can move their game. And that instilled the confidence for that team to go and get swept in the ALCS the next year. So laying the groundwork is what that was.
Butterfly effect.
Absolutely.
Dominoes.
If they move their game, who do the Royals end up beating in the ALCS?
This is the question now, are the Chiefs being selfish? Should the Royals just say, hey, guys, look, we're working on a rebuild here. We can guarantee that we will punch our ticket to some overwhelming playoff appearance. I was going to say success, but I felt like overstating it.
They beat the Tigers in 2014 in the divisional round. They swept the Tigers 3-0. So it would have been Royals-Tigers in 2014 if the Orioles would have moved that game in 2013. It's crazy how it all adds up together. And that's a no-doubt fact, by the way. A no-doubt fact.
No doubt whatsoever.
That standing up to the NFL is what instilled the confidence for the Orioles to go and make the postseason the next year. So.
And it was the beginning in that road game for the Ravens, the beginning of Peyton Manning's second year with the Broncos. He went on to win MVP that year. He never wins MVP if that starts in Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Or if that just doesn't start, if they don't start at home. I mean, they're going to play Baltimore and Denver either way, so I'm falling apart.
Text at 913-912-4810 says, Josh last night convinced me to mortgage my house for the over 11.5.
Huh.
Yep.
Well, I thought that was going to say that I convinced you last night to take the over on anything related to the Suns, and so I'm just really glad that that's not what that text was about. I feel pretty good about 12, and we haven't done our full, game by game. That's a win. That's a loss. That's a win. But going through and looking at all these, like we talked about earlier, the best teams they play, they're going to get at home. I don't feel like I am terribly able to pick the specific games that the Chiefs will stub their toe on. I just know they're going to a couple of times. But, you're not going through the whole AFC South. That helps. That you get that boogeyman out of the way in week 2. And I don't think the Jags are as weirdly affecting to the Chiefs as the Texans and Colts appear to be.
Also, a shout out to the Mingles who brought in their second son yesterday. The son was born, Logan Mingle, born yesterday. So Leo gets a younger brother, and Logan. So congratulations to the Mingles.
Very cool.
Or Mingels. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I know how to pronounce Logan, though.
It rhymes. If it rhymes with Bengals, you nailed it. If it doesn't, then you were just something very offensive.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
the Cincinnati. Congratulations to the Cincinnati family.
Welcome to the world, Logan. I appreciate you listening as well. 913-912-4810.
Yeah, let's get some AirPods in that baby's ears.
Absolutely.
ASAP.
Leo will teach Logan all about 10 to 2 and what show to listen to.
Yeah, we can also teach him about the podcast. That would, we want to juice our numbers, get that kid an iPhone. All of those are great ways to continue to bring them in the zone.
That's right. 913-912-4810. So how did you convince somebody that it was take the over 11.5?
And that number just feels too low, because even if you do kind of go through and like you go a little bit pessimistic and you say, okay, so they lose 2 out of 3 to the Eagles, Bills, and Bengals, and then they lose a game in the AFC West, and then pick another weird game to get kind of funky with.
4.
We're at 13-4 right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead now and take another one of those mid-tier games against good teams that have some questions. Jets, Vikings on the road in back-to-back weeks, Miami in Germany. And I'm still already accounting for like a loss to the Broncos or to the Jags or something really inexplicably weird. You have to work pretty hard, I think, to get to 12-5. And that is accounting for the margin for error. I think this is a 13-win team schedule combo, and taking another dig out of that, you're still at a 12-5 record that I feel pretty good about. And maybe this is where the futures get you. Maybe they're are perfectly lined up for that, and they don't need Week 18 for whatever reason, and the Chargers do, and now they've stubbed their toe and they're 11-6. But at that point, you would think the Chiefs would need that game too.
Yeah, I mean 11-5 and not needing to start anybody or rest some guys there.
It would just be like you're locked into the 3 seed or something, like it wouldn't be.
Or you're 2 games removed from the Chargers,
right? Which would be that'd be rough.
Yeah, that would not be great. No bueno on that one. But if you're 2 games removed from the Chargers, then you're probably vying for what could be a higher seed or whatever it might be. So yeah, that'd be interesting if they were in that last week to not have the that 12 already taken care of. And I sort of, on principle alone, as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are with the Chiefs, anything under 12, I'm betting the over.
Well, so think about it this way. We know right now, we talked about it earlier, the Chiefs are currently favored in all of these games. If bad stuff happens and they lose, that will potentially change. But as of right now, if you say the Chiefs are going to hit the under on 11.5, you are saying that they are going to be upset 6 times. 5 upsets, they're 12-5, and you cash your money.
Yeah.
5 upsets.
Well, there's going to be upsets along the way because they're favored in every game, and they're not going to go 17-0. So they will get. Now, come kickoff, they might not be favored every game because the Jets right now they're 1-point favorites in that one. If the Jets are 3-0.
Yes, absolutely.
Then the Jets might be favorites.
The Chiefs stub their toe in Jacksonville or whatever. Yeah, that's totally possible.
Even if it's 2 3-0 teams, like the Jets could very easily be a half-point favorite or a 1-point favorite or something like that, to where it's like, oh, they're not favored here, but it's essentially a pick 'em.
But even when you adjust for those, and again, if you want to go ahead and say Jets, Eagles, Bills, Bengals, the Chiefs lose to every legitimately very good team and good quarterback on the roster. Andy Reid gonna lose more than 1 AFC West game? I mean. I wouldn't mortgage your house, all right? But I have a hard time talking myself into a way that the Chiefs are 11-6.
Yeah.
Because it would just be tremendously out of character, and I think we've seen the Chiefs earn that benefit of the doubt.
So Zone presented by Google Fiber. We'll take a timeout. 913-912-4810. Text says nice nugget of information, Josh.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey folks, this is Nate Bukaty, and I'm coming to you from Greengrass Cattle Company in Weston, Missouri, right off 45 Highway. If you look underneath the blue and white water tower, you'll see the amazing space they have.
8:30. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Briscoe, Drake, Mick Schaefer hanging out with us until 2 o'clock as we wrap up the final hour and 10 minutes of the week of shows, with the schedule being released last night, while also little morsels, or some would call them little nuggets along the way, that are being released along the what?
You don't like? Is that your nickname in high school? Homeschool?
Nuggets?
Homeschool?
It's maybe something that happened last night against
Might have
the
been
Suns.
something that's been happening the last few.
Oh, you got kicked in the Nuggets, didn't you?
Yeah, my
That's
Nuggets
right.
have been obliterated.
Yep. So he's not going to eat any McNuggets.
Saucy Nugs.
Or mixed nuggets.
Boy, yeah. I mean, I'll eat McNuggets anytime, but
yeah.
I gotta figure out where I'm at on the chicken.
It's rough, man. Sorry about that. You know what? Actually, I'm not. I was just joking. I'm not actually sorry about that at all.
And that was the third of 12 rounds of the playoffs. Is that right? They lost.
You know, actually, it was the last round of the playoffs. People aren't going to tell you that, but the playoffs actually ended last night.
That was it.
It's over.
And this funny thing is, it was actually the first game of the series last night.
Yeah, that's true.
Series
The
didn't even
series
start
started,
until
and
last
all
night.
the playoffs ended all at
Well,
once.
I mean, it's going to be, what would it be? It's going to be tomorrow night. My house could be set on fire if the Celtics don't win in Game 7.
Oh, wow.
Big Celtics fans?
My son is, yeah.
You ought to invite
Celtics
Beards over. Just watch him melt down.
So probably felt pretty good last night.
I think Beards would cower at the behavior, the violent behavior of my son, and just his reaction to maybe a missed three-pointer early in the shot clock in the second quarter with the Celtics up 15. And how, I mean, we have a lot of pillows that he will just throw at the TVs.
Oh, well, that's a good idea.
It's
Pillows.
great, yeah. Well, it's better than like
Controllers.
lamps or whatever. Or he threw his sister once, the cat.
It happens, you know. I mean, it's
Aerodynamically, that's
do what you
really
got to do.
tough.
Do what you got to do.
Sisters and cats always land on their feet.
How did he? How did he become a diehard Celtics
Marcus
fan?
Smart.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think I remember.
So
that
like,
story,
there's
yeah.
been a few,
and he's still there, so that's good.
Yeah, and he's beloved by the Celtics fans, and he has green hair, and he will score like 6 points a game, but be the most valuable guy in the field on the court a lot of times.
Great. Yeah.
And no, he's great. And so we always vow like these kind of like iconic, quote unquote, Oklahoma State players, these legendary college players like Justin Blackmon was just great in college, right? And so we vowed that, like, okay, wherever he goes, we're gonna be a fan of. Then he went to Jacksonville and he got just a major drinking and DUI problem and just didn't last in the league. So that didn't stick. But Marcus Smart did.
I missed
my
on
son.
that one. I thought Justin Black and obviously off the field stuff derailed his career. But I just
won
thought
the Blitnikoff Award twice.
he was so freaking good, man. He was so good. The Celtics are 7.5-point favorites against the Sixers for Sunday's game.
And it's back in Boston. so
Yep,
that
back in
helps.
Boston. Yep. Sixers lost their chance last night. That was the game. And wow, did they have a lot of open shots. I mean, in the fourth quarter, that's a back and forth game, and the Sixers just kept missing open three, open shot, open three. It's like, you guys are running good offense, running good action, you're getting good shots. Somebody's got to make a shot. Like, if you're wanting to win this series and move on, because you go back to Boston, you're done. Somebody needs to make a shot, and nobody did. But you know who was making shots? Tatum was. Tatum started hitting shots late, and that was the game.
Yeah, he didn't hit him early, and he big fourth quarter.
He's
But I mean,
never-
that's
is
all.
it-
I mean, it's all the NBA is fourth quarter,
Is
right?
it 20 straight shots he's missed in the first quarter now for Tatum? Because he didn't make one last night.
He was 0 for 6 last night.
So I think he's
3-point
now
range.
missed 20 straight field goal attempts in the first quarter, Tatum. He sucks.
You gotta be the Suns' third starter next year. He'll fit right in.
Luckily, though, not many people watch the first quarter of NBA playoff games.
No, or first half, or really.
Yes.
Or for a
First part
Suns
of the
fan,
I
the second
start
half.
watching after the first part of the fourth quarter. That's when I start watching.
I got there halfway through the first with the 76ers and Celtics, and then I lasted halfway through the first quarter of Suns and Nuggets.
And you had seen
Because
enough.
I saw everything I needed to see for that night.
You sure did.
Like, you know what? I don't think the Suns are going to overcome a 20-point deficit against the
Although
best
it
team in the
happens
NBA.
all the time, though, right?
But not
Are we
against
calling the Nuggets the best team in the NBA.
I mean, I think they're the
Better
champions.
than the beasts of the East.
Yeah, I think they're
I think so.
I think they're the champions. The Nuggets. I think whoever wins between Lakers and Warriors, If Lakers win tonight,
it hurts the Bucks are out.
Obviously, they'll
the
move
East
on.
side, yeah.
But if the Warriors win tonight, the Warriors are going to win that series. They're going to win back in Golden State. This is a must-win game for the Lakers. It's obviously a must-win game for Golden State, but it's a must-win game for the Lakers because they're going to lose. And then that 3-1 come from behind that LeBron had against Golden State will then be reversed on them with Golden State if they don't win tonight. I think it's going to be a LeBron, prototypical LeBron game because I think he realizes you ain't going back to Golden State and winning. The winner of that is going to get beaten 5 games by the Nuggets.
We talked,
I think that's exactly right.
I've been helping our staff along of betting. Aaron Ladd doesn't need help; he knows what he's doing. But he lives in Missouri, and but Mackenzie lives in Kansas, and so she's a huge Warriors fan. And so she was talking about they're going to win the series. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
and so we looked back. It was like plus 195 for them to win the series. I'm like, it's good odds right there. Yeah. She's like, how much should I bet? I was like, a few bucks or whatever. She's like, how about 20? I'm like, I look on her phone. She has $28 in her account. Just revealing a lot of stuff
total,
here.
like her actual bank account?
Yeah.
Or
No.
her
In her
DraftKings?
Yeah, maybe that too.
I've got 28 bucks to my name. Should I just put 20 on the Warriors?
Maybe just do 5 so you can make some other bets. She's like, that's a good idea. And then she goes to she just wants to make a bet on Game 6 and to pick the Warriors there. And so she wants to put like 15 down. I'm like, no, don't. You could save some just in case you're wrong. I don't wrong in one of these.
What I'm saying is I need to put $20 on the Warriors in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
And if they don't win tonight, then I can't put $20 on them.
I scared her out of making one $20 bet on the Warriors, so now she's making 4 $5 bets on the Warriors.
Plus 130 tonight for the Warriors to win. You know.
There you go. I told her I looked at the it was plus 15,000 if you got the exact score right.
Oh my God.
It's like that's impossible.
In basketball, good
unless
night,
it's
man.
not.
I'm gonna just a little PSA here. DraftKings has a super boost for Steph and LeBron to combine for 55 or more points, up to even money.
I'm in.
So $10 max.
LeBron's going to have 35 tonight. So you need 20 from Steph.
I think this one feels like a pretty good boost.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a LeBron. I am not going to blow a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors.
They need to make it easier to find where you win your super boost, where to get them.
This one's right here at the top. There are like little tabs for like specials and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, no,
but they're
you
not
click
always
on
right
it,
there.
and then you're like, okay, if it's super boost, but it doesn't populate right away, or maybe I just don't know where to find.
Plus, every day through the NBA playoffs, you get the single game parlay bonus bet back, so you get the risk-free single game parlay on that. I do like I mean I'm perplexed by. We watch the NFL. People were very upset if somebody looks like they're a little wobbly in the NFL and comes back in the game, like to the point where the NFL is so irresponsible. That guy's concussed. What are they doing?
Yeah, we're doctors at home on our couches,
and yet Anthony Davis has become just a joke.
Yeah.
Like, Anthony left the game with a head injury, Davis? It's not his ankle. It's not his knee. He may not play in Game 6? What are we doing here? Oh, I got hit in the head. Oh, I'm Anthony Davis. I can't play. The Dolphins should be fired. The NFL should be disbanded. They let Tua come back in the game. When he was wobbling, do you see him? He touched his head. He wobbled a little bit. They got him back in the game. Fire everybody.
It's kind of weird. It's a good
Why
point.
is Anthony Davis a pansy? He left the game because he got, I got a hit in the head.
Yeah, let's not make fun of Anthony Davis for getting concussed, everybody. What are we doing?
It's unbelievable. The different sport is
the NBA just confused about head injuries still? Like, they just haven't figured it out fully?
They need a Will Smith movie.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. We were going to give you tickets to the...
Oh, no.
Different. Yeah, different.
Look at me. Look at me. He's concussed.
This guy's kick. Look at me. Hey, no, over here, buddy.
Look at me.
Over here.
Look
Two
at me.
fingers up. Look at me.
That guy's the quarterback now. Tell the truth. We're going to give away Casey Current tickets.
We got 2 sets of things to give away.
We were going to give away those Current tickets right now, but we started having too much fun. Yeah. Well, now we're going to do it in the Ghost of Ticket Future.
Yeah.
In the 1 o'clock hour.
Start working on your typing fingers. 913-381-1010, but not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. No, we're going to do it. I got to tell
They're
you how
current
we're going to
tickets,
give away.
but not currently.
Well, in the future.
Ready to change your life? Get a smile you'll love to.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Drake, Mick Schaefer hanging out with us. How do you want to give away these current tickets?
Oh, sorry.
Currently.
But just tell us what you love, though. What do you love?
What do you love?
What do you love, Mick? What do you love? What gets you what gets you going?
If you can correctly pronounce the new manager's name, get you tickets.
Current manager.
The current manager.
Current manager. Do you have to say it twice? If it's current
If you wanna
manager.
be correct.
Well, the fact that it's been a little bit of an
Lowercase
uncertain
c.
position, I think you might want to say it's the current manager.
Yes. But you were going to tell us something you loved.
I loved yesterday. I also hated yesterday.
Okay. You loved Thursday, you hated Thursday.
I mean, we know 90% of the Chiefs' schedule right now for 2030.
That's right.
That's right. You're right.
This is dumb. There's just the order of stuff is just dumb.
But you loved it.
I also hated the schedule. Us in the media, we're going to bitch and moan because Christmas Day, bro, you're going out of your way to play on a Monday.
I wasn't gonna moan. I don't have to do anything on Christmas. I'm
do.
just gonna watch the Chiefs game. So on the
you know what I don't have to do is spend time with my family. Apparently,
This is
aren't
a
you happy
win
about
for
that,
you,
though?
I think,
No,
right?
I love Christmas. I love New Year's Eve. Hey, I'm the Chiefs. We're gonna play both those days.
They took
both
both
those
of them.
days.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mick.
Both of them.
Rough life for you. I'm sorry.
I'm surprised they didn't just go grab Thanksgiving, which is my favorite holiday.
It is the best. Thank you. Thanksgiving
Number
is
one
my
by far
favorite.
for every reason known to man.
I have these conversations with people that are like, "Oh, Thanksgiving, I could give or take."
Those aren't people. Those are
take it or
idiots.
leave it.
Those aren't serious people.
Like, what are you talking about? It's the best of everything without the issues that go along with it. You get food, you get family, you get football. No stress
on a
about
Thursday.
who.
All 4 days.
Yes.
Every holiday should be on Thursday.
No stress about presents. No stress.
And all those things, correct. Afterward, you still have 2 great holidays to look forward to in the next month, basically.
I thought you were going to say you have 2 great days of food still ahead of you,
absolutely.
because that's
I mean,
also true.
And the food's the best. It's the best. It's the best food holiday.
Yeah, and 3 days of great football ahead
It's the
of you.
best sports holiday.
Because you get Black Friday college games are always great. Now you get Black Friday NFL games. You get Saturday and Sunday games and
it's-
Monday.
And the
I mean,
weather
yes.
is still pretty good.
It's usually nice.
It's nice, especially during the day. The sun's going to be out.
Yep.
It's the best. Anyway,
Thanksgiving is the best. You're not wrong about
so
that.
I hate it's just so stupid. It's just this much fanfare for just we you know everything. We're just gonna arrange them. We're just gonna arrange it. It's gonna be the biggest thing of your month. Okay. That's just dumb. I just get tired of it. We're leaking stuff. I'm just do it all at once. I mean, it was a week-long deal. But I'm in love with the videos that the teams produce. That's my job. That's what I want to do. That's my whole year. I just want to do that one thing. You pay me $1 million. If I had my dream job, that's it, and that's my salary.
I don't care what the job is. My dream job is for you to pay me $1 million
Yes.
to do it.
And it's just for a scheduled release. Actually,
Yeah.
I would do a fun little video for other big stuff. Around the draft for the NFL or around training camp. I'm your 4 times a year big viral social media video guy. Let's do it. That's what I want to do.
And you get paid $1 million for it.
Absolutely.
That's a great gig if you can find it. It's a really good deal.
So
man.
you dress for the job you want. That's why I'm wearing.
I love this
That's what I
shirt.
say. Dress for the job you want.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Radio.
Yeah. Here you go.
Nailed it.
I have had the shirt Mick is wearing. I have had targeted ads on Instagram for this shirt a dozen times minimum.
I laughed so hard when I bought it.
It looks like an old kid's
it's
book.
an old little golden book.
But
they
it
have a
says-
series of these shirts,
Oh,
but
wow.
they're sinister and
very.
some kind R-rated, and
Yeah,
this
very.
one is
This is
Both.
PG-13. This is PG. Let's sacrifice Toby.
I don't think that's PG-13. I think that
I would
knife
say they could use some parental guidance.
with,
you can drop F-bombs on PG-13 movies now.
You get like 1, right?
You get one?
That's how it works every
Multiple.
radio. I told Sterling this like really early on in him beginning to do radio here. I was like, yeah, no, it's like PG-13 rules. Like you get like 1 like mid-level cuss word each show, and then like 1 big one once a week. I don't think he ever bid on that, but I did lay those seeds.
You used to be able to do a lot on PG until Red Dawn came out. Then it's PG-13. Now you got to change. Now you can differentiate between PG and R. Usually it's either R or it's PG.
Yeah.
Okay, well this is going to be PG then.
One thing you can still get away with is giving away current tickets.
Can you do that currently, or is that in the future? Is that past? Because in the past, there was no PG-13.
You know what I think about the KC Current? I think they should be rated F for fun.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Or maybe M, not for mature, but for mothers.
What about P for Pack the Park? Huh? For Mother's Day.
Wow, 2 Ps.
2 Ps. PP. Children's Mercy Park, the place to be on May 14th. Kickoff, 5 o'clock. Current take on the San Diego Wave. Alex Morgan is in town. Superstar Showdown. And Mother's Day programming ahead of the match. Free carnations given away at the gates for the first 3,000 moms. Also have a cool photo booth, player autographs, face painting, and more family fun outside the stadium ahead of the match. We're going to give away two
4-packs.
4-packs?
2 4-packs right now.
2 4-packs of tickets. So that's 4 tickets for 2 different callers?
That's exactly right. We're going to have, just to put it another way, we're going to have 8 total tickets that we're going to give away, divided evenly amongst 2 winning callers.
Have that as the smarter than a 5th grader question next week.
Divide by 2, please.
All right, we've got 8 tickets to the current game. How would you separate those by 2? How many would each person get? 3? Oh, so close. But we'll give you another try because everybody wins.
It really hasn't been everybody wins recently. We've had some heartbreaking losses.
Not for Craig. All right, so 913-381-10-810. 913-381-10-810 is the phone number. You know what? Introduce PG-13. Let's go caller number 13. Oh, wait, we need 2.
And caller number 810.
13 and 810. How badly do you want to go to?
Oh, Drake just left the studio, actually. Drake just walked out.
interesting.
He's flipping us off and walking down the hall. All right, bye, Drake.
You know what? They have, the Chiefs do, in their schedule release, they have 8 exclusive games. So let's do caller number 8.
Love that. 13 just seems a little high. Do you want to bring it down?
Exclusive games. What are those?
Exclusive games are where there's no other game at the... So prime time, but also Germany, and then the Raiders game on Christmas Day. And how about this? Their bye week is week 10, so let's just do randomly 10.
Switching it up is nice. I like that.
So let's do callers 8 and 10 for a 4-pack to the current game on Sunday, 5 o'clock at Children's Mercy Park against the San Diego Wave, and a lot of cool Mother's Day activities, and Alex Morgan in town.
Do you know the worst time slot for me, who has a 5 o'clock show every Sunday?
I would say the worst time slot would be 3:25. And they have 7 of those games this year.
7.
Oof.
They might have more because that Chargers game is a TBD. So that Week 18 Chargers game could be Sunday at 3:25.
And it's in L.A. It probably will be.
It's probably not going to be Sunday at noon. Okay,
Unless
that much we can probably deduce.
Unless it's one of those Saturday night games or
could
whatever.
Be Saturday. Could be a Saturday game, absolutely. 913-381-10-810. Callers 8 and 10 going to a Sunday game. As the current take on the San Diego Wave, a couple of 4-packs we are giving away. We're just giving stuff away, just giving it away for free.
Have it.
Speaking of
everybody wins.
Speaking of giveaways, I just saw what is Bryce Young's first snap in rookie minicamps, and he just looks so small.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he threw an interception. It was a giveaway.
He still got his hat on from the draft.
Yeah. That was a good joke in the Panthers schedule reveal. Yeah,
he won't take his hat off. Here's the deal: don't. For the most part, don't have your players act, because that just brought down so many of the videos. There's a few of them, like the who was it? It was the Bills. I thought they did a good job having their players act, and they edited it to where they didn't have to carry it when they had their kind of their make a wish. Here's what I want to be.
Yes,
and Josh Allen got to be a paper boy.
It's really good.
I did like the Jags. I thought their players were pretty good. The Jags was the NFL is scripted.
Yeah. That was a really good one that was like, after a while, like, okay, I got it.
It's about 8 minutes long, but I will say, though, some of the bits, they didn't do the same thing over and over again. So it's, throughout the 8 minutes.
I like the ones that, it's about the schedule. Get to the schedule, right?
That's true.
The Chargers with all the flash and all the Easter eggs, everything, it's all about the schedule. The simple one with the Titans, it's all about the schedule. The Browns was so funny, right? It was all about the schedule. They're bringing in a wrestler. It's a cartoon wrestler.
It was The Miz and somebody else.
It was, that
was very good.
Charlie the Brown or something like that?
Yeah.
I can't really
Brownie
remember.
the Elf.
Brownie
the Elf was out there.
Yeah.
A super underrated mascot. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is great because so a couple things on the Titans and their video. When it was the Chargers and the lightning bolt, and somebody just went, Lightning McQueen, which was great. My son used to call the Chargers the Lightnings because of that. And the Jaguars, the Chester Cheetah.
Yeah.
My son called the Jags the Cheetahs for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like, oh, they're playing the Cheetahs? Oh, they're playing. So I thought that was great when it was Lightning McQueen and then Chester Cheetah. I'm like, yeah, all right. See, my son was just as smart when he was 3 as these grown folk. So how about that?
The other thing that the ones we really like and keep talking about have in common, I don't want to just make everything about like Twitter Blue or whatever.
That's fine.
But the 2-minute and 20-second cutoff that Twitter used to have for videos is important to society.
Yes.
We can't have every video be 8 or 9 minutes long. No. Get it in about 2 minutes or so. We'll all stick around for 2 minutes of a good video if it's right there, and we got joke after joke after joke. The Chargers and Titans, they kept it tight. They kept it funny. They kept it within 220 or so. That's what we need. That's the standard.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, I think, had a great idea. Like, we'll get Taylor Sheridan, we'll tie it into Yellow Sub. Horrible execution.
It's a short film.
God.
The Cowboys one was awful.
It was just dragged.
It was
and they relied on you're supposed to be laughing at these players. I'm like, this isn't funny.
No.
My last name's Gallup.
I should be, I got the fastest hands in the West.
I didn't make it as far into that one as you guys did.
Oh, my God.
I was waiting
like
for
2 minutes.
I was waiting for the payoff.
And Taylor Sheridan, like
anything?
The father of like all great TV shows now is a horrible actor, as it turns out.
Yeah, right.
Jerry Jones was the best actor in that thing.
The Dallas, you is a Dallas Cowboy. A Dallas Cowboys. We went. Oh, whoops! I got your script, and you got our schedule.
And I appreciated some of the ones that are like, okay, we don't have to be hilarious. Like I like the Vikings one. That was very creative. They just do the drone shot all the way through the brand new facility. And they had just these little drops of like where the order of the schedule and all that stuff. Texans was done. They went out of order with the schedule.
Yeah. And, the Bengals, I have no idea what they were doing. It's weird. Like just watching the Bengals one, there's like these flashes and these like scene changes, and it's like all of a sudden it's week 15, but then there's another flash of something like an anime, and it's like week 3, and then it's something else, and it's like, oh hey, now you're off in the wilderness, and it's like week 8. Like what the hell is going on here with this Bengals thing?
The little bit with Orlando Brown and the mayor, though.
That was the best.
That was the best part.
So good.
That was the best part.
So good.
Better than last time. You know.
And look, in Kansas City, we're going to get the Kansas City references. Like I'm sure there's a lot of America who didn't understand the Chargers one and the references to Chiefsaholic, right?
Yeah,
they don't know the story, or they forgot about the story. It's brilliant. It was awesome. But there's a lot of those in, like, I'm sure Cincinnati's one that, okay, I don't live in Cincinnati, but if I did, I would catch. I thought the Chiefs' idea was great. This is all happening inside Patrick Mahomes' phone.
Yeah.
Execution could have been better.
Agreed.
They're middle of the pack, I thought.
The idea was good. But yeah, I thought they were probably middle of the pack. I thought Mahomes probably could have picked a different outfit. That was very odd. The purple shirt that like had a very large collar on him.
I feel like
that's an Adidas like cut, I think.
But it's just odd. It was purple, and then like I don't know. It just
feel like they caught him. They're like,
yes.
Where can we meet you? We'll come to whatever field you're throwing at. Here we go.
Working out in Dallas. Can somebody
maybe at TCU if you think about it? That purple, I don't know.
That's a good point.
Was he wearing purple in those workouts?
And the documentary for Netflix was there. And hey, can you shoot this clip real quick of Patrick Mahomes and send us this? Yeah, sure, we'll do it today. Yeah, this purple shirt's fine. I'm just out here throwing the football to Quentin Johnston here at TCU.
The Falcons, who are great every year, are getting rave reviews because they had these TikTok stars, but I'm not on TikTok, so I recognized a couple of the people.
I don't know.
That was it.
Same thing. Oh boy, we're all really old.
Not really sure. Yeah. All right, it's a quarter of the way through.
Steelers was great. Sorry, Steelers was
that was
the old
how-to.
School how-to like dodgeball.
The dodgeball
was really good.
Dodge, duck, dip,
Get bit,
dive,
Jimmy.
and dodge. Yes, that was good. That was one I wrote down. The
also,
Tennessee one.
the Tomlinisms in the background. That's something I noticed when it was on NFL Network. I will not blink. I will not seek comfort.
Yes.
So good.
It's good. One other little nugget, and then we'll get into.
Can you stop saying the word nugget?
Then we'll get into the Royals and them being white hot, red hot.
Why don't you do any stuff for Denver Biscuit today?
They are just bringing up
next
gold.
week. I'll be over by next week.
Just lots of gold with the Royals right now. You're such a joker, Mick.
I know.
Such a the Raiders or the Chargers and the anime.
It's not very Christian of you.
That they used.
Christian Brown. Get it.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. Yeah, thank you. They have two guys named Brown, but they're spelled different.
They are.
Oh. So what did they do for them?
Don't worry, those are the players I know for their team. I got nothing else.
The
Jamal Murray doesn't have a lot of great puns, but
No. The Vegas.
Before
the
you get
Raiders
back
one?
to that, Michael Porter Jr.
Cool.
is back.
He is back.
It's always his back.
Yeah, and he's back.
Remember
in
him
the,
at Mizzou?
Yep, and he's back in the Western Conference Finals.
At least the Suns didn't lose with a 15 seed.
No, they didn't. They just lost a 2-0 lead in the championship, and then they lost by 30 back-to-back years in the elimination
At
games.
least we can name players for the team they lost to.
So was
Like
that
Michael Porter
smiley when he's smiling at Booker? Was that from this year or from last year? I saw that.
The Jokic one's photoshopped. The Doncic one's from last year.
I gotcha.
Oh, which is the one from the finals when they blew the 2-0 lead?
That one's
So Jokic and
from
Doncic
the
they're
Bucks.
different. They're different
Okay.
people.
That was from Giannis.
They don't need to be.
Okay.
That was from the Greek
You
Freak.
can put all of them in the same bucket.
Yeah, I see.
They put a lot in buckets.
A lot of nuggets
lot
in
of
buckets
balls,
when you're
good
going
ball
through
working
Yeah,
buckets.
that's
An
right.
idea for where your guys' Nuggets can go.
But the Raiders and the Chargers, when they did the Vegas Raiders and they did the slot machine.
Oh, that's so
they
good.
Said, get your quarterback. And they pulled down the slot machine. and
Rodgers,
it's like
Brady,
Rodgers, Brady, all these other ones. And it's
Garoppolo.
That was really good. Really good. All right, it's a quarter of the way through the season. So we got to update our ZOUs to see what the pace is and who's winning, who's leading, and where we are. Now, mind you, Beards was a part of this. It's me, Josh, Mick, and Beards. But if Beards loses, Drake has agreed that if he's still working with the show, he will be the one that pays for the lunches.
I think if Drake
agreed
is,
to this.
I think if Drake is still running this show at the end of baseball season, that he's going to do something more dramatic than that.
You better believe it.
I don't think he's going to buy us pizza. I think he's going to
Yes.
buy us. I actually don't know what it would possibly be.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will tell you who is going to raise the roof. We'll get an update on the ZOUs and a couple of other nuggets before the show's over.
Mick Schaefer in the Zone is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports.
Sporting KC show comes your way tonight at 7 o'clock. Royals and Brewers. Corbin Burns going to the mound tonight for the Brewers. And he will be met by Josh Taylor, making his second start of his career. First start being in 2019.
Corbin Burnson played third base.
Corbin Burns. But yes,
he's back
that's
in
right.
the league after
He
punching
is.
his own pitcher.
Let's cut through the crap,
in
Vaughn.
celebration.
I only got one thing to say to you. Strike this mother out. All right, let's go through the ZOUs. Let's get an update where we are, where we had them, what they're pacing for, and who's leading a quarter of the way through the season. Not the Royals, we know that.
So let's see. How many games have they played?
They have played 40.
40, right at 40, right?
Yep. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4,
Not
5,
yet a quarter through
6.
the season.
So we had 10 different ZOUs that we did.
We should do this going to the bottom of the fourth today, right?
Yes, that's right. So we had 10 different ZOUs.
Bottom of the fifth.
And we had one bonus one that was, and we can't say whether it's pacing one way or another. The bonus one was, is there a long-term deal by a player this year? So that's not going to count in our.
I say pacing
category.
not in that way.
I actually think it is kind of pacing not.
Well,
right?
no,
maybe Pasquantino.
I mean, that's fine. We can use it. It wouldn't change the standings at all. So here we go.
Sounds like somebody's losing.
Well, somebody is losing.
I think
that's
Jason felt more optimistic, if memory serves. I don't know if it's been an optimistic start to the year.
I'm always optimistic with the Royals, which is why I end up paying for lunch with the Royals and getting lunch for the Chiefs. I'm optimistic about it. I'm like, oh, well, you're optimistic about the Chiefs. Yeah, turns out pretty good. And I won. Optimistic about the Royals. It turns out I need to know what you guys want for lunch.
You know football. You've never heard of baseball.
I'm still trying to figure this baseball thing out. It's baseball, so it's not like I am a huge fan of cricket. So the ball, if it
similar deal,
but if you
yeah.
bounce it, you can still hit it, or
You can,
can't.
actually.
They use gloves, which seems like it's cheating. All right, so we had Greinke with wins. The over/under was set at 7.5. He is pacing for 4 because he has one.
Yeah.
So he is pacing for 4. The over was picked by Josh Briscoe and Mick Schaefer.
Yeah.
The under, me and Beards had the under with Zach Greinke wins. Looks like you guys were overly optimistic on
He
a
can
little.
still get there
Oh,
easily.
yeah, absolutely. He only needs
easily is the
7
most
more. Jordan Lyles' ERA. We set it at 4. We all went over, so that one's not going to matter. He's pacing right now for a 6.2 ERA because that's what he has.
He had a 4 ERA the other night when he threw 9 innings of 4-run baseball.
That's a great point. Yeah, but it wouldn't have mattered because we all took the over. Brady Singer, ERA, we set at 3.5. He's pacing for a 7.7.
Yeah.
Because that's what he has.
Briscoe, Mick, and Beards all went over.
Okay, cool.
Singer's ERA. I went under. He's going to have to turn that around. Yeah. In fact, some would say cut it exactly in half to get under 3.5. He's setting 7 and 7, more than half. 7.7. Scott Barlow saves 19.5. He's pacing for 16 right now.
That seems like high. He is. Wow. He's got 4.
A good little stretch, right?
You, Josh, you, Mick, and Beards all went under.
And are we counting him if he gets traded?
His saves count with the new team, right?
Saves count with the new team, but although if he gets traded, he'll probably not be that closer. He'll be that setup man. Chapman's hurt him a couple times, so we could have 6 if it wasn't for Chapman sucking 2 of the last 3 games. But hey, you got the win, so that doesn't help. So I went over on that one, so that was dumb. For now.
Don't beat yourself up over it.
I'm not going to. So the next one, who leads the Royals in starts? Josh had Brady Singer.
Yeah.
Mick had Brady Singer.
Hi.
I had Jordan Lyles. They are all tied with 8.
Yeah.
Greinke has 8. Beards had Chris Bubich.
We made fun of him, and he was right until Tommy John.
Was he right until
he was right until he was wrong?
He was,
I just remembered that one. I was waiting to hear what the category was. I remembered Beards picking Chris Bubich for something. All of us going, "Come on, Beards, that's not going to be it." And then,
well, we were right.
Well, yeah, ultimately we were right, but his methodology was okay. None of us said no. Don't pick Chris Bubich because he's going to need Tommy John.
We said don't pick Chris Bubich because Chris Bubich can have a couple of blow-up starts and be sent down to the minors or the bullpen.
Right, but that wasn't why it was a bad pick. It was a bad pick because of bad injury luck.
Sure, if that's what you want to go with.
Yeah, we're really sweating that one out like 1/10 of the way through the season whenever he went down.
Bobby Witt, combined home runs and stolen bases. We put it at 59.5. He is pacing for 72.
Yeah.
Beards and I had the over.
Yeah.
Mick and Josh went under that. You guys hate Bobby Witt.
What happens when he gets traded? Do those stats count?
No, it's only Royal stats. Salvi home runs. We set it at 28.5. He's pacing for 28.
Ooh.
I'm the only one that went over.
Went under.
You three went under, so therefore that counts as a point for you guys as we're pacing there. Vinny Pasquantino home runs. We set it 24.5. He's also pacing for 28. Briscoe and Mick went over.
We just held hands this
We
entire
really did.
under.
We had our hands in one Fritos bag.
MJ Melendez OPS. We set it at 750 OPS. Right now he's pacing for 700 because that's what he has. I'm the only one that went over.
Well,
so
I was waiting for
went
someone to
under.
explain what OPS was.
It's where you take the on base and then you take their batting average and then you add in how many walks they have specifically and divide it by sacrifice
What's
flies.
the P stand for?
Player.
Oh, you're guessing.
Offensive player stuff.
You had a shot on that one. He's trending in the right direction for you.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. If I just take the last
up.
month, I'm going to, I would feel really good about that one. And Salvi, I've got a shot with the over Salvi home runs. He's pacing for 28.
Yes.
It's 28.5.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to need those to come through because right now the standings aren't good. In first
Depends on your
place,
perspective.
tied with 8 out of 10, Briscoe and Beards.
Oh, I did what Where's Drake, high five. For Beards.
Second place with 7, only one behind.
I'd be third place.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
third place with 7 is Mick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And sixth place with 4.
Oh, it's 4.
Me, 4 out of 10.
Did we not do just an over-under for win total?
Oh, yeah, we did. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I don't think it's going to help you either.
No. I was going to do that last. Those are the totals. Those are the totals.
Got it.
I gave that. But the wins, we put at 72.5. They're pacing for 49.
Oh, my God.
Mick and I had the over.
They're pacing for 49 after a winning streak.
That's where your 7 as opposed to 8 would come in, Mick.
49.
They're pacing for 49, and they've been on fire this week.
They've won 5 of 6, or they're 4-1 in the last 5, and they're pacing for 49 wins. They're 6-6 in the last 12 games, and they're pacing for 49 wins. I don't think I'm going to get there with 73, so I think you and Beards should feel pretty good about that one. But Barlow saves, if they keep winning and Aroldis Chapman stops blowing it, that'd be great. Salvi home runs
Salvi homers.
and Melendez OPS. That's a 3-point swing. That's you guys down to 5 and me up to 7.
Yeah, I mean,
those happen.
Better hope, but Vinny or Bobby doesn't do like a rehab stint or something like that to where those brings those back down
the
in our
AAA
category.
stats count. We already said the AAA stats count. So if Witt's getting stolen base and home runs in AAA, that counts. Also, I need Greinke to not pick up wins because you both have Greinke with the over 7.5. So I can't let him get to 8. It's ridiculous. Why would it? No, he can't have 8 wins. He can have a sub-2 ERA if he wants to, just as long as he's 7 and whatever.
Yeah.
Great.
Is the Chiefs is it over under really at 11.5 wins?
11.5.
My
It's
God.
that is definitely minus money,
Oh
so you would get
my God.
you'd
That's
get much
like
better
robbing
return.
A bank
but
and
it,
a mass.
That's what I said. Like last year was 10.5. I did the alternate line of over 11.5. I mean, I got much better. I got like plus 115 for over 11.5 last
Is
year. I'm
Vegas not paying attention? There's 17 games now.
It's 12 wins. They win 12 at least every year.
Every
That's what
year.
They do. That's what they do.
We thought early on. We thought we were worried about them. They went 14-3 last year.
Yeah, death, taxes, 12 wins at least for the Chiefs. It's what It's what happens. So there you go. The update. We were pretty good on the Salvi home runs at 28.5, considering what he's pacing for right now. And then the Scott Barlow
us putting
saves.
those numbers together. That's
right.
Pretty good.
I thought they were really good. There was only a few of them that we were able to use from DraftKings, like the Royals. The Royals over-under was 69.5 at DraftKings, but we changed it because we said we would all take the over at 69.5. We're like, well, let's change it to something else where it might be right there. 72.5. I'm going to take the over still. I'm going to go 3 wins better than what Vegas thinks they will do and still go over.
I went like on almost all the bets, just under. No, they're not doing this. They suck. No, and then wins. Oh, yeah, way more than 72.
Sure. All these guys are going to be crap, but somehow they're going to win 73 games. That's how good they are. It's just how good they are. And we'll see if anybody gets a long-term deal because me, Briscoe, and Beard's the only one that said yes. So you could get that bonus point.
Ooh,
So you're hoping for no money spent by the Royals. Can we count?
Which is probably a safe bet.
Historically, a good investment.
It's as safe as a bet should be. We'll take a timeout. We will come back after we give away some tickets to the NHRA Nationals that are going on.
Later this summer,
that's right.
Little
Over
drag
Harlan Park,
racing
Topeka.
action.
I used to cover that
keep,
when I was working at KSNT in Topeka.
It's in Topeka.
And it's funny. The same guys and gals are still racing. The same families. They're just older, and they have their next generation of
That's awesome.
John Forces and Ashley
And
Forces
Speeds.
running out there. Yeah, and Capras and all those. Yeah.
Heartland Park Motor Sports Park in Topeka, the Menards NHRA Nationals. We're also giving away $50 to Johnny's Tavern. So you're going to get a pair of tickets to the Heartland Motorsports NHRA Nationals and $50 to Johnny's Tavern. And you get a great discount for the big race by going to heartlandmotorsports.us. Type in the promo code 810. You're going to get 20% off. 913-381-810. Let's go ahead, and since the leader in those ZOUs, Beards and Briscoe, were tied with 8.
Switch it up a little bit.
Let's go and do caller number 8 for this one, and out of the 10 categories that we had without the bonus one. So nice job there for you guys. So we'll do caller number 8 to get these NHRA Nationals tickets and $50 to Johnny's Tavern. We'll see who raises the roof that weekend, but who's going to raise the roof this weekend,
Who
Josh?
cares, Jason?
Oh.
The NBA playoffs are over. I have no love in the NBA any longer. No, I still do care who raises the roof, and I still do care about the rest of the playoffs, but I especially care about Shamrock Roofing and Construction, where one call does it all. I think the Heat and Lakers both close it out tonight. I wouldn't necessarily parlay that, but that's where I'm leaning right now.
Interesting.
I think Miami and LA close it out at home. We don't see either of those games, either of those series go 7, because who needs a series that goes 7 games? Certainly not the Phoenix Suns. And you won't need to sweat out a Game 7 if you go to Shamrock Roofing and Construction. They Raise the Roof is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local residential and commercial roofing contractors. One call does it all. It's going to take a lot more than one call to fix the Phoenix Suns. It will not take more than one call to fix your roof.
There we go. Raising the roof this weekend. And then Game 7 coming up on Sunday. Celtics, Sixers. in
No, it's
Boston.
over. I heard
2 o'clock.
the playoffs are done.
But they don't exist anymore.
A trusted source. He was in the media. So
I have been told the playoffs are no longer going on. Roughly halfway through the second quarter last night, the playoffs ceased to exist. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue rolling, and we'll get some cuts going on next.
Mick Schaefer's brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food, try it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
Together, we're elevating our potential, our pride, our tradition.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, Drake, Mick Schaefer hanging out with us on this Friday edition of the show. The Royals are 4-1. I know we joked about it. They're 4-1 in the last 5 games, and 6-6 in the last 12.
Averaging 7 runs a game-ish?
7.
What did they get last night?
They got 4 yesterday.
4, so it's
they're
probably 6.5, 6.
Yeah, it's pretty close to 7, though. I mean, if you round up, it's going to be at 7.
Before yesterday, they were leading the majors in runs in May.
Yeah, and they were averaging like 7.1. So it was right around there. Regardless, this is a team that is certainly playing better. The schedule has flipped.
Yeah, where's that early April pitching match with the early May hitting?
Well, Brady Singer got it yesterday. 6 innings, only an earned run, 4 strikeouts.
Keller pitched well day before.
He did. Yep, that's a nice. And guess what?
They
won.
Lyles pitched well.
Guess what? They won those games. They won back-to-back games. They had a pitcher go out there and pitch well while the offense was backing them up, and they won those games.
Can we
Shocker.
talk about the controversial decision to we're just not going to throw a reliever on Tuesday, right? We're not bringing anybody out. It's Lyles. You're just it's your game.
Leave him be.
Do you think that decision led to 2 wins on Wednesday and Thursday?
Yes, absolutely it did. I have no idea if it did or not because I know Chapman ended up, almost blowing the game yesterday. But you know what, Freddie Fermin, you get him in there, and everybody knows that guy is one of the best bunters in the world.
I like
with Nick Prado at third. You safety squeeze.
I liked how he didn't mess around. A lot of times in that situation, you'll overthink it and try to get to a certain count and all that stuff. He's like, I'm going to lay it down. And
it's beautiful.
Normally you want to go down the baseline, right? But he went right towards the pitcher, but it was just controlled. It was right there. It wasn't bunted hard. It was no man's land. The catcher couldn't go get it.
It's my son's first reaction. He's like, why did the catcher stop? And I was like, well, so the catcher, if he went and got the ball, he wasn't going to be able to get the ball, turn around, and get Prado. So he's got to make a decision.
Play if he does.
Yeah,
because there's nobody. Prado, like,
but you got to make.
You're just not going to slide, are you, Nick? You're just going to run. Okay.
It's a split-second decision, and also when the catcher made the decision to stop, the ball was still rolling.
Yeah.
And as soon as he stopped, it died.
Yeah.
It just died. And it's like, well, you're SOL at that point. It was beautiful. You couldn't probably roll it out there any better to have that between those two. And then the pitcher, even if he fielded it and tossed it up, you weren't going to get Nick Prado at that point. The burner that is Nick Prado. So look,
he can move a little bit.
They found a way to win, and that was awesome. And we'll see what happens when Corbin Burns strikes out 15 tonight. But you know what? They're getting great production from even down in the order with Michael Massey, who's turned his whole season around.
Michael Massey.
Massey, that's right. Home runs are coming, and Nick Prado's doing what he's doing. So it's been fun watching them the last few nights.
It's been nice. So hopefully, and look, maybe it's because they're playing the A's and White Sox, I guess, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever.
Again, they're 4-3 against the A's and White Sox, and you throw in the 2 games against the Giants. They were 2-1, so that makes them 6-4 against teams that are sub 500. 6-4. They're doing what you should do against teams that are their peers. They're beating them. They're just getting their butts whooped by teams that are competing right now and ready to go. So we'll see how that
changes.
We'll see. They got Milwaukee for a few games, and then they face off against San Diego on the road. Rough 6 games, and then at Chicago to wrap up the road trip. So those final 3 games. Let's get some cuts in before the week is over. Let's hear what we heard or had this week in the cuts. Drake, what you got? It's big balls, some small balls, some medium-sized balls. Do you want more Briscoe or not?
Rasheed Rice, he's going to be an 800-yard receiver.
Bold from Matt Derrick last week.
That's really interesting from Matt Derrick. An 800-yard receiver. We didn't take that out of context at all.
None.
I think I deserve both of these points.
I like that one.
Both of these what?
Both of these whatever.
Both of these.
Just a good
Bo-fad-ease.
Both of these?
Both of these.
Both of these.
That's pretty good.
Both of these. That's my horse's name.
Yeah, you know what?
I would
Sometimes
name the
I try
horse
to figure out what you're
Bo-fad-ease.
talking about. That wasn't one of those times.
We said, what would you name your horse? I said, Bo-fad-ease. Both of these. It's like a Friday in college on a date. It's like a lot of build-up. You get dressed up. You spend a lot of money. You go through the whole night in anticipation of one thing, and it's over in 2 minutes.
Bang. Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that?
Just like that. It's the Derby I'm talking about.
Derby.
The Derby. You suck here, you suck there.
Interesting.
Random.
It's like a Friday night in college.
That just
it was really neat to see a younger team just bust on whoever they were busting on.
Oh my God, Josh, what are you doing?
I'm a jealous, sad man.
Les brought some bangers, man. I didn't want to draw attention
What
to
are
it at the
you-
time because I wanted to bring it out for cut.
What are you doing? That is Les.
I know.
You don't do that to Les
He
Norman.
said it. All I did was cut it.
Oh my God! If I'm Les, I'm never coming on this show again.
I am afraid of him hearing this segment. I really am. I was from the moment I wrote down that timestamp.
What else could he have meant?
Well, you know what? Last year he did say when you've got a player that's cornholed in right field, he eventually went to pigeonholed, and he's like, I freaking. He said, I freaking knew you guys were gonna clip that. As soon as I said it, I knew that was going to be.
Can we get the last ones one more time, Drake?
It was really neat to see a younger team just bust on whoever they were busting on.
Yeah, he's talking about offensively, man.
I'm a jealous, sad man.
Yeah, and Josh is an immature, sad, young.
Oh, I'm sorry that I took this highbrow
comment
segment.
was built for cuts. Okay, you built this segment.
On
You built
out
this
of
segment
context.
for comments like that.
It's different without the song in the background.
Is this a cut?
That was a cut. Yeah, it's just the intro to that one segment where we were just a cappella.
Lebo.
No, it was Mick.
Oh, that was
Mick
you.
was.
I knew somebody was sitting there. I thought it was Lebo.
He was
for
the
some
clap
reason.
line. You were
Yeah.
beatboxing. I left it in the podcast and everything. It just made me so tickled to
Yeah, but
hear without the music.
Without the music, 'cause
Yeah.
that's not in the podcast. Okay, yeah, that's.
Castoreum is a heavily scented brown or tan goo that is secreted from a beaver's castor gland, which is located nail-bitingly close to its.
But yes, again.
Yeah, exactly. But come on, and I don't think Jason caught that one in real time either.
That's great.
I've done everything. Scare me. Hang upside down. Drink water.
Hold your
Smell
breath.
the ass of a porcupine, Jackson said.
Whoa. he
It
said
doesn't
that?
work.
It's Bo Jackson, by the way.
Jackson.
Yeah. He's got.
You know, if we melt that horse, we could use it to stick stuff together.
Yes. Yes.
When you're in a man, when you're inside. Wait, what?
What are you?
No,
that was you,
wasn't
Mick.
Said.
That was not
Smelling a
cut.
porcupine butt.
That was not.
When
cut.
you're in a man, when you're inside.
These are
Criticize Baker Mayfield all you want, but he's 3-0 against Burrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bakerhead Stadium.
Now that's a glittery turd.
By the way,
You got to listen to the show all week to get all the cuts.
but also with the anybody watching on video, Josh is like setting up like his hand motions
Yeah.
because at that one he was like, "Wait for it."
I'm gonna start
Got
doing
it.
I'm gonna start conducting the
Got
cuts.
it.
You guys obviously really emphasize the raid the zone stuff with Brady, and heard a lot about him maybe getting too much in the zone.
Yeah, you're darn right, Sam. Too much in the zone, raiding the zone. Let me tell you, I enjoy watching a lot of baseball when I hear Ryan and Rex talk about the zone all day.
Hey, real quick, Tina on Twitter, who just tweeted at LNorman22, JB Briscoe did you dirty on the cuts today. Hey, Tina, at least let me get out of the office first.
No, but she's right though. She is absolutely right.
She's absolutely right.
Yep.
Can we hear it one more time? The
You're busting on Les.
It was really neat to see a younger team just bust on whoever they were busting on.
What? You? She's right.
Yeah, no, she is.
No,
She's
that's
right.
what this segment was created.
Do you want more Briscoe or not?
Now we know the answer to that question is no. Sorry, Les.
I'm sorry, Les.
Less is more. This has been my long schedule.
Big balls, some small balls, some medium-sized balls. What did Matt Derrick say about the balls?
Ball work.
Ball work.
Yeah, that'll
that's
be
right.
that'll be in next week's for sure.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to that. You know.
Where was Mick again?
I'm not sure. Where was he? What do you mean?
It was a
When you're in a man, when you're inside.
I want to know what the rest of that sentence was.
Said, yeah.
The that one I believe is just a little trick of enunciation. I think you were saying when you're in M, as in short for some sort of situation, like EM, not a man. But I don't know what's going on in that brain of
Yeah,
yours.
I don't even know what's going on with you trying to explain that. I'm more confused now than him being in a man. You suck here, you suck there.
I didn't create this segment. I'm just trying to keep Corey's proud legacy going.
Is that right? This is the proud legacy. Actually, you know what? This is probably what he is most proud of, is the cuts being...
There's nothing else to be proud of.
Probably.
He did nothing else.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
This is his thing.
The cuts not just being, hey, here's things that were said that were funny throughout the week, but him specifically cutting it to be maybe a year younger than sophomore level, which would be freshman.
And that was where I had my first ever Puffy Taco.
Well, I like this week we didn't have to rely on the Border Patrol to supply all the innuendos.
I didn't find many. I mean, I listen all day. Sometimes they're easy to just stand out and like, boom, cutting that, boom, cutting that. You know what? Feud is typically a gold mine. You know, the feud with the with Seren. But this week, there weren't some gold mine lines.
This was the place to be.
Plus, it was a quick feud. Todd and Seren swept the board. Wow. It was 3 quick ones. It was like 230 to nothing. I'm like, oh. Sometimes when you get like 5 categories, you got some extra, you know.
I remember when they used to let me on that show.
Yeah, then I moved here, and they're like, yeah, thank God. Anderson, you can have Mick. Please. There is no feud around here for who gets Mick. We will certainly back off. He's yours.
I'm just afraid there might be a feud with Les next week.
Yeah.
I might take a day or 2 off earlier than I had previously
go get married next week
planned on. Yeah, I might try to buy some time for myself. Maybe just like an hour on Tuesday.
Can you get a boutonniere in time?
I'm going to work on it.
But then if you're not here on Tuesdays with Les, you're going to miss all the nuggets that he drops.
I don't have to live like this, man. I got a whole weekend ahead of me.
Are you going to Denver?
No, I'm certainly not watching any playoff basketball.
Oh. The sun's not out here, but they are out of something.
Sure are.
Family Leisure is having our Factory Direct sale. Looking forward to spring for patio furniture or a new hot tub? Family Leisure has factory incentives going on now. Do you want to start a new career? Family Leisure is growing and wants you to join our championship family. If you want to be the best, come join the best at Family Leisure, where family and fun come together. Now hiring for sales, service, warehouse, Bobcat operators, and more. Family Leisure, K10 and Ridgeview in Olathe.
Awesome! Don't forget, Mother's Day is this Sunday, May 14th. Helzberg Diamonds has an assortment of Mother's Day gifts, including keepsake pendants, diamond and gemstone stacking bands,